Hello, it's me. You might notice I'm wearing a dressing gown and stuff. Long story short, I'm going away on holiday soon. I wouldn't have any other opportunity to record this, etc, etc, etc. I want to start by demanding an apology because I feel I need to put something right because in the deliberations, I'm not sure, because I saw the full deliberations, I'm not sure if this was actually in the final video, but there was a bit where someone said that the whole thing I said in the review about the whole yeah buddy thing, someone said that didn't actually happen, and it did. So you can't, I may be many things, but I'm not a liar. That did actually happen, and it is why I chose the thing. Because when I saw the arbitrary criteria of having to say yeah buddy, that's the first thing that popped into my head. Because I thought that. Anyway, let's start with everything else. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sad that, this all happened, and I know that, everyone's saying, you must have been good to get into the competition in the first place, and, all the criticism will help to make you better, stuff like that. Though, I mean, it's just a bit depressing to have all of the judges vote for you to go out both weeks. I mean, it's not really encouraging, I started reviewing for this competition, like it was something I'd been interested in a while, and then so I decided to do the competition. And now that there aren't any restrictions on time and stuff like that, I can review what I want and for how long I want, and yeah, so that's a good thing. Obviously it's helped to, help make my things more concise, so it doesn't go on for ages and ages, but at the same time, I have more freedom with what I do when I review stuff now. There are a few things though, with the judges that I don't entirely agree with. I feel there are a few, I won't name names and stuff, but I feel there are a few unfair criticisms and stuff that contradicts the advice I'd been given in the last round. Like, one of the people said that they gave me advice to do a certain thing last round, but I didn't do it, but they hadn't actually given me that advice. So yeah, there's that. Also, everyone kept saying, it would be good to have a photo or something overlaid on the video, but I can't do that because I'm only using Windows Movie Maker, where, if I could, believe me, I would have, but no, as it is, I can't, which sucks. And, if I did have $500 to spare, maybe I might have to upgrade my my editing software. I'm not, I hate losing, especially, like I said, all the judges voting me out, and it really sucks, but, I don't know. At least there's not so much stress on me for doing all of this. Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed and sad, and but what you gonna do? It was a tremendous opportunity, which I tremendously screwed up, I guess.
In terms of the vote off, yeah, I'm disappointed I got voted off, like, one of the first three. But the way I see it, when I look back, it is kind of my own fault, because I do think my videos weren't, like, as good as it could have been in terms of, like, the actual review themselves. So I do blame myself for getting voted off, but overall I am a little bit disappointed I didn't get at least further into the competition, but I can't really blame anybody else, so it is my own fault, but I am still a little bit disappointed. In terms of my plans for future reviewing, I still plan on doing video reviews about films, TV shows, games, etc, etc. Every time I go to the cinema, I'm going to do a film review, or every time I complete a new game, I'm going to do a game review. Every time I see a new TV show, etc, I'm going to do video reviews on it. It's not going to stop me doing these videos, so I love doing it, and I love all the interaction with everyone who likes commenting on my videos, so I'm still going to press on with this, and I'm just looking forward to carrying on doing it. In terms of what I take away from the contest, and that's pretty much be more prepared. That's what I take away from this, because I know that was one of the criticisms of my 2 videos, is like, because what I really do is actually do off the cuff kind of stuff. I don't really go in with a plan, so I think from now on I'm going to go in with a plan now. So that's the number one thing I learned from this contest, is have a plan. Think about what I'm going to say instead of just going, oh, blah, blah, and try to remember it from memory. And because sometimes like that, if I do forget some stuff, so I'm going to go in with a plan from now on every time. So I do have the contest to thank for that, so I'm going to be more prepared for my videos now. That's what I take away from the contest.
Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to round 4 of season 3 of Who Reviews the Reviewers. Finally, we're back. Please excuse the long hiatus. We actually recorded these deliberations a couple weeks ago, and just now finally getting them up on the channel, getting this episode together. I want to say thanks from the previous round to all of the contestants who were eliminated. Absolutely brutal round. We dropped 3 contestants. We actually lost 4 because we had a contestant who dropped himself out. But we want to say thanks to Jack's Channel of Stuff, Jack Does Things and Stuff, and also to Major Key for all being in the competition and for their hard work. Major Key was having technical difficulties and wasn't able to make a farewell video, so he wanted me to express his appreciation for the contest. He told me that he learned quite a lot and he was really glad that he did it. So thanks a lot to him. Glad I heard from him. And unfortunately, you folks weren't able to hear from him, but he did talk to me, and he wanted to thank the judges, and he was really glad that he was in the competition. And I hope that he gets all of his camera woes figured out and continues to make videos. I want to publicly apologize to Jack Does Things and Stuff for saying that he did not actually say "yeah, buddy" when he was playing a video game. If he really did that, we did not mean to say that he was a liar. That seemed like one of those situations where it was more of a rhetorical kind of thing, where you know, in the moment you say, I said this, and you don't mean that you literally actually said that, but apparently he literally actually said that. I think the judges watching that video felt like it seemed like a thing where he was just trying to get the arbitrary criteria in there somewhere, and it was all about the it was all about the execution and how it came off. But if he actually said "yeah, buddy" while he was playing that video game, sure, I will happily publicly apologize for that. So thanks guys for being in the competition. I know it's not easy. I know it's a tough thing, and I know that when you're one of the first people to get voted off, that can be a really difficult thing, and it can be discouraging. But please don't be discouraged. The whole point of the competition is to make everybody better, and unfortunately it is a competition, and we do have to vote people off every time, and or most times anyway. And we certainly think that everybody that's been voted off so far improved astronomically as the competition went forward, and I really hope that both Jax and Major Key continue to make videos. Now let's go on to round 3. So the criteria for this round was to review a remake, and this could be a remake of anything. The idea is to look at the thing, the original, not to review both simultaneously, but to see if the remake was warranted and if the new thing stands well on its own. We got a really cool assortment of different kinds of remakes in this round for the remaining 7 contestants. Some of them are movies, but there are other things thrown in here as well. We've got a video game, we've got even a cover of a song, which I said was allowed, and I was really glad that somebody went ahead and went with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the deliberations, show you guys all the videos, and thanks a lot for watching. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Oh, let me also say, don't forget to vote for your favorite reviewer in the Viewer Top Banana Poll, and you might be able to help that contestant stay in the game. So be sure and do that, and let's go ahead and get right into it. Let us begin with Ben's review of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Hey there everybody, it's Mr. Cool210 here with a quick review of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Released in 2005, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is another adaptation of the original book by Roald Dahl. However, due to some of the similarities to the original 1971 film, like the Oompa Loompa songs, it is also considered a remake of that original film starring Gene Wilder. The new film stars Johnny Depp and Freddie Highmore as Willy Wonka and Charlie Bucket respectively. The film of course follows the same plotline as the original book and film. We follow Charlie Bucket as him and 4 other children go on a tour of the magical factory owned by Willy Wonka. First, as always, let's move on to some positives. Like most of Tim Burton's films, this movie certainly has a great look to it, especially when they're in the factory. The factory's supposed to have a sort of otherworldly look to it, and I can say this definitely had that feel better than the original film did, especially the Chocolate River. Another positive I can bring up is the score by composer Danny Elfman. While not as memorable as the tracks from the original film, it serves the film well and gives it a nice dark tone that definitely helps the film have its own identity. I also really enjoy the updates done to the other kids. It was always strange to me in the original book and film how Roald Dahl acted like chewing gum was such a terrible thing. I love that in this version Violet is more of that girl who everyone has seen who has to be the best at everything. That is definitely something more relatable than chew gum and you'll die! That, and it makes more sense in this day and age that Mike TV would be more obsessed with video games than with television. However, those are really the only positives I can give the movie. While I do like the design of the factory, that only rings true when I can see it. Not only is it hard to see because of how dark it is, I don't feel it goes far enough with its designs, mainly with the Oompa Loompas. When you hear the term Oompa Loompa, you think of something not of this world, not Deep Roy cloned a million times and made it a little bit smaller. While I can praise the score, the music that is sung by the Oompa Loompas won't get the same treatment. I personally found it really jarring and out of place to only have the Oompa Loompas singing. They always kind of spring on you out of nowhere, and with them all being different genres, they feel out of place. I mean, the Oompa Loompas being the only ones that sing the songs works well in theory, but it's just jarring because A, they are all different genres, so you never get used to them singing the same type of song, and it doesn't happen until about an hour into the movie when they get to the factory. So you go through the whole movie not hearing any songs, and then boom, song number, and you're just like, why the heck did they do this? This is just confusing. Also, I really do feel that the actors playing Veruca and Violet should have been switched, or at least just get different actresses. Violet is more of a brat in this movie than Veruca is, and while she shouldn't be nice by any means, she seems way more mean than the girl whose whole character is being mean. And really, the biggest issue for me anyway is that the film focuses on Willy Wonka. I mean, I would understand if the character had an interesting backstory, but the one in the movie isn't like that. It's quite frankly predictable and boring. I'd even be fine with it if Wonka was a good character. But he's not. Unlike the other Wonkas that quite frankly were easy to like, this one is just mean to everybody for really no discernible reason. I know they're trying to go for the whole he's a kid in a grown man's body, but that's not exactly a good character trait to look at. It just feels really awkward most of the time, and he's not fun to watch, which you need for your character, especially if he's the main character, even if he's not supposed to be. Another big issue is that Charlie himself isn't even that great of a character either. He's the character who should be the focus, but he's not, and even when he is, he's just boring. All he cares about is helping his family, which sure is important, but no kid acts like Charlie does in this film, and it's really distracting. If the film would have added more songs by other characters, or even taken the ones out that were sung by the Oompa Loompas to make it more consistent, focus less on Wonka and more on Charlie, make Charlie feel more like an actual kid instead of the non-existent kid that does no wrong, and have some recasts, I'd give it a higher score, but for now, I can't get it any higher than a 3 out of 10.
And I never even understood why Roald Dahl hated these things to begin with.
Alright, let's go ahead and begin the deliberations this evening with Mr. Alexander Stevenson.
Excellent. I thought that this was probably Mr. Cool's best review so far. I thought this was definitely his tightest. On a technical level, I would maybe suggest making the Ken Burns effects less exaggerated, make them a little bit softer, but I feel like he's kind of finally got a hang of, panning and zooming and, having a good rhythm there with it. I liked just kind of all of his points. He seemed like he was really fair towards the film. It's a film that I haven't personally seen. I haven't seen the remake anyway, so I just kind of have this perception of it being this film that everyone just kind of hates, and he was able to pick out a few things that were good about it or that were, even better than the original. I did feel like the closing joke kind of went on too long. Because it's like weirdly in two parts. There's a part with him eating, and then he's watching the TV screen that has nothing on it, and then he makes a joke about that, and it just kind of keeps going when it should have cut off. But overall, like I said, this was, I think, probably Ben's strongest so far, and I thought it was pretty good.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. One thing, you mentioned that it was a really good round of videos, and I totally agree. And one of the things with the majority of these videos is they're so well detailed and explored. They really explore, both instances of what they're talking about, or the multiple instances of what they're talking about. And I thought he did a really good job of that here. I will also echo what you said about the in joke, and not so much that it went on too long. I just didn't think it was that funny. Like, I wasn't sure where, the real humor of it was. I don't get why he didn't like these things, and then you're spitting them out. But it just was a joke that maybe just flew by me. Maybe I missed something. And then you're right.
It was supposed to be like a commentary on the movie. Because it's like chocolate factory, and then he's eating candy and he spits it out because he likes the original one better than the first one.
Didn't it say like gum on the screen and he put gum in his mouth?
Yeah.
Like, I just wasn't sure about all that. I will mention something that I like is that the way he sums things up. I love a detailed summary where you say, boom, 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 this is what, what I liked and didn't like. That helps me out at the end, so I did enjoy that.
I have to agree with both Aaron and Alex on all their points. I really don't have any major disagreements as far as the base content of the video. I do think he treats the Willy Wonka film pretty fairly. And I agree with some of it. I've seen both films. I'm a big fan of the original. I'm a fan of Tim Burton, so I was slightly disappointed with the film, but I did like parts of it. I think Johnny Depp is probably, oddly enough, maybe the biggest problem with the film. And I have to agree, the jokes, this is the thing. The static joke I thought was funnier than the gum joke. And the static joke kind of struck me as, oh man, I totally didn't pay attention to the static in the screen right there. Let me go back and comment on it.
Yeah.
It didn't strike me as, I could be wrong, it didn't strike me as a premeditated joke. It seems like something that came out in editing, which is totally fine.
We've seen this from him before too, where he'll make you aware of things that he's done in his videos that maybe you wouldn't have caught, like mistakes or whatever. Because he wants to comment on them. And I think that may be something he could back away from and just, kind of let him ride. If people catch him, they do, or whatever.
I think that might be a reflection of, us internet people who love to, bring up every tiny detail.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I think he's, getting ahead of it.
Yeah,
right
he's
there.
he's anticipating that.
I have static on the screen. Shut up. Here's my joke. I'm going to edit it.
It makes sense to kind of at least try and preempt some potential criticisms, but when it's actual flaws with the technical side of the review and stuff like that, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
What I'm not sure about with that is if it's a real we haven't even heard from there's Lance. We haven't even heard from Lance yet. No, Lance, it was a warp core breach. Anyway.
Oh my god, a warp core bridge. Stop separating the saucer.
But what I was gonna say is I can't decide if it's maybe a little bit of a self-confidence thing, or if it's a faux self-confidence thing. If he's if he does that because he likes to do a little bit of self-deprecating humor. But I'm kind of leaning toward he's just trying to, like you said, preempt criticism, and you got to be careful and not do too much of that because you're showing the seams a little bit. There's too much of the man behind the curtain. Don't do that. Lance.
Well, first I want to say, in regards to last time, thank you, superhero enthusiast, for teaching me a new term. I did not know the Ken Burns effect. I didn't know that's what you called that. I did put it in my notes for this one. I thought that was handled really well.
The more you know.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the way he used the music, sort of the jaunty music, his fast delivery, and the fast panning and zooming, it actually worked really well for his rhythm. And I don't really have much more to say that hasn't been said already. It's a really good review. But I think, just to get back to the joke thing, what didn't work for me was his staging of it, where
They're really on this joke.
Well, there's just the one thing that stands out, really. I mean, it's a good review all around, so it's the one thing you sort of have to think
and
about.
it's what he leaves us with at the end, which is always so important in a review, you know, and so that's why it stands out, I think, too.
Yeah.
Or really any creative device. Actually.
Well, maybe we're reacting to it because he keeps doing it.
Well, I for me the problem is that he actually had to have a caption that said gum, because when he was talking about it, it wasn't even in the frame with him. It's like, oh, by the way, this is what I'm talking about. And you don't even know what he's even, making a joke about until he's already put it in his mouth.
Yep, that's true. All right. Well, I've got a few points I want to get to real quick. First of all, I think he does a really good job of using the original film for reference without reviewing both movies simultaneously. The point of the challenge was to review a remake, not to review both of them or to review the original, but the idea is to use it for reference. You have to compare them to a certain degree, because the question is the remake warranted? Does it do enough to stand on its own? Can you watch it without having seen the original? So you kind of have to talk about that a little bit and look at both. And I think some of the reviews this week do that better than others. I think there are at least one or two that feel more like a review of both movies at the same time. And I think this one does a really good job of saying of not just like keeping my mind with the original 70s Willy Wonka through the whole thing. I was impressed that a lot of his praises didn't feel like he was fishing for positives. It seemed like things that he legitimately thought were working well about the movie, and he didn't go to the music's good. I like, and in fact he criticizes the music. That's one of the things he doesn't like, because of the Oompa Loompa songs. Some of the stuff that he was talking about are criticisms that I've heard a lot before of the movie. Of course, it's kind of hard to get away from that. This is one of those movies that everybody's kind of talked about, but I did feel like he did a pretty good job of coming up with some new stuff that kind of made it personal for him a little bit. Here's stuff that I don't like that other people aren't talking about. I hadn't really heard anybody talk about the gum thing before. I don't know if I 100% agree with him on the fact that on the idea that that's like really arbitrary in the original. It's that I think that he maybe is missing a little bit of historical perspective there, because I feel like the gum is kind of a representation of the the really superficial airhead girl thing, and I feel like in the 70s it was it kind of had a stigma attached to it a little bit. So I don't know, but it was funny the way he approached it, and he's maybe got a point about that, but it was a thing that I questioned a little bit. I was jarred by the music in the middle. It overpowers the dialogue, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's only a 4-minute review, so I was kind of surprised that he didn't just loop the same music that he usually uses. And it didn't feel like I can't decide what it was, because it's kind of like I ran out of music, so I got to put another thing in there, but we sit there for a few seconds without any music, and then suddenly there's more music, but it doesn't fit the same mood from before. But I didn't feel like there was enough of a shift in, he's talking about a new thing now, so we need a different kind of tone or environment for that. So that was a little jarring. The music he picked at the end I think worked a lot better, but that thing in the middle, I actually, the first time I saw it, paused the video because I thought I had some kind of video pop up in another browser or something that was making that music. I don't know if I'm the only person that had that, but that was really jarring to me. So just on a technical level, that's a thing. Overall, I agree. I think this is his best review as far as content goes. I also think he needs to work a little bit on word choice. Phrases like it's got a nice look to it. Got kind of overused and redundant. Try to find some synonyms and just overall he's got a very kind of laid back personality, so I'm not saying he has to use really formal language. I like how blunt he is.
He's Mr. Cool, so.
Yeah, good point. I really like how blunt he is. I love that this guy will just come right out and say, it's boring! I love that. But I do think that he gets a little bit too lax sometimes with some of his language, some of his word choice. But overall I thought it was quite solid. Anything else about this one before we move on?
There's one other thing.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I thought of. There's this thing when you review a movie sometimes where you refuse to take the movie on its own terms.
Yeah.
And I feel like he did that with the movie in that he wanted it to be about Charlie, but the movie is about Willy Wonka, and that's what Tim Burton wanted to do. He wanted to make the version of the movie that was about Willy Wonka. So for him to say, well, Charlie should be the center character, well, that's not what the movie wanted to do. I mean, you can disagree with it and say why you disagree with it, but if you take the movie on its own terms, then you kind of have to say why that worked or didn't work.
That's a fair point, Aaron. I would make the argument that he just didn't articulate enough why he thought that, because I always said that too. My go-to is the point of view character usually is in the title. It's not always the case, but it's Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, and Charlie seems like he's. I think the deal is in the movie he kind of feels like he's supposed to be the protagonist, but he gets overshadowed by Willy Wonka, and I feel like he could have articulated that much better than he did.
Yeah, could be.
But no, that's a fair point. That says something about the review. It says that he's not communicating that.
Right.
I picked Willy Wonka for my review because, or to be more specifically, I picked Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for my review because I just felt that it was just hard for me to find, I guess, it was hard for me to find a movie or game at first to do, and I didn't want to do a game again because I just did one the week before. So I figured a movie would be different because so far I had done a box set, a website, and a game, so I figured, okay, now I'll move on to a movie and I'll do something different. And I figured I had plenty to say about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so I gave it a watch, and I had a lot more to say about it in the review by the end of things. So it worked out really well. Watching the movie again really did help put things in perspective, what I wanted to put in the review, what not to put in the review, because, yeah, it's a 10-year-old movie, but I didn't want to spoil anything for people who haven't seen it, especially considering that everyone knows the story of Willy Wonka at this point, so I figured it'd just be best if I just give my basic reasonings as to why I don't like the movie, because I don't. And it was a fun little experience, because I'm usually used to doing movie reviews that are like 30 minutes long. So it was interesting to sort of do that for only for 4 minutes at this time, although I'm really happy with the extra extension. Hardest part was actually getting the review to match up to 4 minutes, because I didn't want to keep it, because the original script that I had written before I thought a little bit more and thought of some more things to put in was just the regular 3 minutes, and I figured I have an extra minute, I want to use that minute to help with the review a little bit. I mean, I thought I could add a sketch or something, but I thought it'd probably be best if I gave more criticisms and more positives to the video or to the movie. And it did, and I think it made it a more whole, complete review. And if we get to keep this 4-minute runtime thing going on, I'll be really happy about it. Although if I probably get full reign, I could probably make movie reviews that are around that 30 minutes. Although I probably won't do that. If I had to do it over again and I had more time, what I'd do differently? I probably would have refilmed the sketch at the end cause the intention of that gag was that I'm doing everything that the bad kids are doing at once, but I'm not sure if I got that fully across, just because it was actually really hard to get all that working, and just the way it was shot, and I really just wanted to get that film so I can get focused on doing the review itself, and I think it turned out okay in the review itself, although I do think it could have been a little bit better. And I also think there was a couple things I forgot that I liked and disliked, or big thing that I liked. Mainly I liked the grandpa character, not Joe, the other one who's really crotchety and angry all the time. I like that character, and I forgot to mention that in the review. But it's not like he wouldn't have really improved the score at all, so I guess it doesn't really matter all too much. It probably just would have been a bunch of smaller changes, because I think the review turned out good overall. Top Banana, I don't know. I really never... I mean, I hope I get Top Banana. I really hope I do. But with MattKid and Connor Nielsen being my competition, and even Squatch Gang's video last week or last round was great. I have my doubts that I'm probably ever gonna get top banana in this contest. I do think that I hope I can at least prove myself enough to like make it at least to the end, because I'll be happy even to get like second or third place. I don't need to win this contest. It's already being enough of an experience, just doing this, like trying to find new ways to do the reviews, because it's such a different style from how I'm usually doing my things. Although we'll see how it turns out with later rounds, because so far we've reviewed things that I find are easy enough to review. If we review something like I can almost imagine Captain Logan asking us to review like a knife or something, and I'd have no way of how to review that without possibly hurting myself, but we'll see. Yeah, overall, I really just I'm glad this was a good round. I think I've seen a couple of the contestant videos. Like I've seen Connor Nielsen's and I've seen MattKid's. They're both good. They're both good, like always. I'm really happy with how mine turned out. And I'm hoping that I hope this isn't the last time I see the contestants, see my pretty little face.
All right, moving right along to Comics Kid 2099, we're going to look at the Amityville horror review.
Howdy, Woodsman. Welcome to the Outdoor Horror Theater. I'm your host, George Klutz. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2005 film The Amityville Horror, starring Green Lantern and Hit Girl. So strap on your chainsaw chaps, and let's get right into today's episode. This movie is a remake of a movie of the same name from 1979 and follows a similar plot. In 1974, Ronald DeFeo kills his parents and siblings in a gruesome tragedy. 1 year later, George Lutz, his wife, and her 3 children move in. The house and evil spirits within attempt to drive them to insanity, and the movie follows the family's attempts to win out against the madness. When people say remake, usually the response is, "Ugh!" And sometimes, rightly so. Movies like Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Emmerich's Godzilla are enough to make even those of us with the hardiest constitutions hurl. But the naysayers often forget that movies like Scarface, The Wizard of Oz, and The Thing wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a director dusting off an old and often forgotten movie and reinterpreting it. So that begs the question, where does the 2005 Amityville Horror fall in the spectrum of remakes? I was shocked to find out it's better than the 1979 film for a few reasons. First and foremost is the running time. The 79 film takes a whopping 117 minutes to do its thing, while the remake is only 90 minutes long. This wouldn't be such a big deal, except that the remake is able to tell the same story in less time and do it so much better. Mostly because the remake excises extraneous pieces of the story like the wedding, the priest going insane, and the cop following the family and acting suspicious. These last 2 plot points, I should add, never really have any payoff in the original movie and just stop abruptly. So it makes sense the remake would get rid of these bits and allow the movie to better focus on the family and their trip to Insanesville. The remake also has better acting all around. I like Margot Kidder, so it surprised me to see Melissa George doing a better job playing a mother who is at her wit's end trying to protect her family from a force she doesn't understand. And listen up, Woodsman, because I'll only say this once, but Ryan Reynolds turns in a really good performance here as well. Nothing against James Brolin, who does a good job playing a man slowly descending into madness, but Reynolds does it just a little bit better, I think. Part of that comes back to the remake's focus being more squarely on the family without taking all the side trips to extend the film's running time. So we get a little bit of time with Reynolds before he turns evil, and we get to see that he's a good father figure who loves his stepkids. We don't get nearly as much of that with Brolin in the original film. Though, if I'm being honest, Brolin's performance is pretty close to being as good as Reynolds's, while Kidder's isn't as close to George's. And just as good as Reynolds is at playing the loving stepfather, he's maybe better at playing the psychotic madman who builds coffins for his entire family. He's a little too good at that if you ask me. I've got my eye on you, Reynolds. All this love I'm heaping on this thing shouldn't give you the wrong idea, though. This film does have some flaws, specifically the jump scares. The remake gets way excessive with them, which could be a trope of horror movies from the last 10 years, like Paranormal Activity, Insidious, or other horror remakes, like Rob Zombie's Halloween, or Sam Bayer's Nightmare on Elm Street. But that doesn't excuse the movie from indulging in that sort of behavior. The original movie did have some jump scares, but it feels like the remake has 5 times as many, and jump scares have been around for a long time. But like I said, it seems like they're much more prevalent these days. What makes this so frustrating is that jump scares are usually a sign that a movie doesn't have anything scary to show the audience, so they go to the cheap route of jump scares. But the subject matter of Ryan Reynolds slowly going insane and hunting his family down is plenty scary enough without the unnecessary jump scares. Getting back to my discussion of remakes before we conclude today's episode, some might ask if this remake stands on its own and can be viewed without seeing the original film. I would answer with a resounding yes. I saw the remake many years ago, and it wasn't until I was preparing for today's episode that I watched the original movie. That, coupled with the fact that the remake is just a better film all around, allows me to confidently answer that the 2005 remake of the Amityville Horror does stand on its own. You won't be shouting timber anytime soon. That's it for today's episode of Outdoor Horror Theater. Be sure to tune in next time for a different kind of horror film. We're Back Again, the dreaded sequel to the animated film We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. And remember, just because you can drink muddy water out of a greasy hard hat doesn't mean that you should.
We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. I thought I was the only person that remembered that movie even existed.
Oh, I remembered it. It was terrible.
I never saw it, but I remember it.
I always think it's really funny when you have a movie that's not a sequel to anything called something like We're Back, you know? Alright, I want to begin this time with Mr. Superhero Enthusiast.
Oh, I get to go twice in a row? Awesome.
Did I... Oh, yeah,
Too late.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
No, take backsies.
Yeah.
Tag, you're it!
I really liked the format for this. Like, if this was a show that ThatMattKid did, this outdoor horror theater, I would watch that. That's great. I think this review is fantastic, especially like just on a technical level because we brought up some issues with ThatMattKid before about that, and it just feels like he really put 110% into this, and it's got so much polish. It's just great, and the content there is fantastic as well. It's really well structured. Just looking at my notes here. I liked how he sort of used the remake discussion to talk about jump scares. So it's like he almost had this whole other big section in there, and with a pretty short review, it really felt complete to me. My only real criticism is he should have actually puked.
Half miler.
I really like this though. I thought this was great.
I don't agree with that. Let's go to Lance.
I thought this was a really good review as well. I'm trying to repeat a lot of things. I do want to say that I don't know. I think I had the same problem with Samurai Jack when he did it that last time as well. But there's just something about his delivery that just seems really kind of stilted to me, and he just rushes through it. There aren't really any kind of pauses between the sentences, and it gets me kind of, feeling kind of antsy,
Yeah, I
Gets
know.
me antsy and I have to go out and kill.
Exactly. In regards to the jump scares, I liked that section, but I don't know if it's something he just didn't have enough time to really delve into because of the length of how the video had to be. But it just seemed like I didn't get an idea of what he was talking about because he didn't actually list any specific jump scares.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things you can't really just put a still image on there of and understand what it is you're talking about because this is obviously something that's in motion. So it just didn't really come across to me when he had like little beady eyes on the window, or it just. So I think it either should have been cut down and focused more on other aspects of the movie, or gotten really laser focused on that and told me what it was about these jump scares that were being too excessive, rather than just saying, oh, they were too excessive.
I'll go ahead and go. I think that I like the choice of shooting outside, framing that shot to kind of look like a similar environment to the movie. I don't know if he used that lower film quality on purpose or not. I suspect he didn't, because some of his other videos where we see him are shot that way, but it was actually really effective, because it looks kind of creepy, and he framed it in such a way where he looks like he's in a neighborhood like that, and I thought that was a good idea. I want to echo what Alex said about him doing this as a series. I think that if he were to win the contest, he should do Outdoor Horror Theater as his miniseries on the channel. I think I think it's great. I don't know, it was just kind of a joke thing, but it totally works. I like that he took our advice in being on camera more often. I think it really works. I think it breaks up the monotony a little bit of the stills. Says the host of Superhero Rewind. But I really like that. I feel like getting a little bit more time, because we haven't talked about the time limit thing, but everybody got an extra minute this time from what they've had for the previous 2 rounds, and I think that a lot of people really relaxed with that extra minute. Weird how much freedom 60 seconds gives you, and he doesn't feel as rushed. Lance, I agree with you that his sentences kind of run into each other some, and that can get a little bit trance-inducing, but he does. I mean, maybe that's not the right way to put it. I just mean that it's a little sing-songy sometimes, right? And so that I don't know. That can be a little bit problematic. At the same time, he's not rushing as fast, and so I think that this format, where he's not trying to go a mile a minute and throw a million things at you, works better for him. I like that a lot. I have the same thing that I had with the last review. I think that he could work on his word choice a little bit. And I don't mean that you should never use the same word twice. Sometimes the right word is the right word. But when you got one paragraph and you say the phrase jump scares 5 times, it's even more glaring because, as Lance said, he doesn't really give us any examples. So it kind of feels like he's talking too much about this broader thing now, where modern day movies have too many jump scares. It's like, okay, but if you're gonna go to that, I know you've only got 4 minutes, but you've got to delve a little bit deeper into it, I think. Let's go ahead and go to Manos.
Wait, I would agree that he was a lot more relaxed in this video, and also you guys hit a lot of my points. I did like the fact that he did kind of almost look like the Lutz guy, Mr. Lutz, a little bit, the way he had the flannel shirt. And it was a very subtle touch, I thought.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he also used this opportunity to defend remakes, that not all remakes are terrible. And I will also, point out that, one of the differences between the films is, the subtle use of jump scares in the 70s version, where they amped it up a whole bunch for the 2005 version. I do wish he had a little bit more time to elaborate on that point. I think he tried to visually, but maybe if he had found a little extra time to unpack that would have been a little bit better. Outside of that, I thought it was a very, very solid, good review.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, what a great review. I think maybe if I were to give an award to Comics Kid this week, it'd be Most Improved. I just think he listens to what's being said and really does a great job of incorporating it into what he's doing, which is not always easy when you're used to doing something a certain way. The fact that he was on screen more, like has been mentioned, I thought was good. And not just on screen, but communicating on screen. And I actually think that helps his, you talk about the way he delivers things. I think to see him speaking on screen and to intersperse that helps break that up a little bit and communicate what he's communicating better. I actually thought that really helped with what he was doing. I think he went into the jump scares a little bit more than you guys did. Like, he talked about them being cheap and, how when there's nothing better to say. And I thought that was explored maybe a little better than you guys saw it as. And I liked it. I liked that he went there and took some time to, kind of differentiate in that way. I thought this was great. Like I said, another great review and great week and well detailed. And I felt like I understood the movie and what I would think about it. So well done.
When you guys were, especially Alex, talking about structure with this one of the things that being on screen can afford you sometimes is to set up the next bit. So it kind of helps to communicate to the audience. Now we're going to move on to a new section.
It's like punctuation.
Yeah, exactly, and I really like that. And that's the thing that I have sometimes struggled with reviews that are all stills, is how do you make it clear that you're going on to a new thing? And so whenever he's on screen, he does a really good job of making sure that it's never when I want to see more stuff from the movie. It's always, there's nothing to show you right now, so I'm going to show you me to get to the next place. That's really good, and I hope that he continues to do that. Aaron, I'm with you. I definitely think it's his best review so far.
Yeah, and I just think he keeps getting better and better. I thought that was a really good one.
We were very limited on what we could have done. If you went and Googled all the remakes in the world, there's actually not that much. It's actually kind of a small field. And yeah, we could have done something like a TV show that's remaking a movie. For example, on the Sci-Fi Channel, you have The 12 Monkeys, but I haven't been watching that show, and I didn't want to have to go back and watch that entire show, but that's something I could have done. And so if you consider that, and if you consider music, there's actually quite a bit that I could have done, but I didn't want to do a song because if I was going to review a cover to a song, I would feel obligated to use clips from both songs, and I don't want to do that. I'm afraid that I would get a copyright strike if I did that. I feel much more comfortable using images from a movie than I do using music audio from a song. I kind of knew right off the bat that I wanted to do this on a movie, and when you consider everything that's left, when I narrow it down like that, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot for me to choose from that was stuff that I had access to. That's another thing, because I wanted to do something that I had access to, and at the time that I had finally decided on the Amityville Horror, it was still on Netflix. It got taken off like the day or two after I had watched it, and fortunately I got most of my screenshots from Netflix before it went down, but then once it was gone, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to go on Google, and I'm going to have to use Google search, and so most of my screenshots from the movie were actually from Netflix, but there's one or two of them that were not screenshots from me watching it, and so I know some of the judges have been kind of writing me hard about not using high enough resolution on my pictures. Well, this time around, most of the pictures that I used were screenshots while watching the movie, the highest resolution that was possible for me watching the movie. What was the hardest part about this particular challenge? There were a lot of hard parts. Number one, choosing the right movie. Despite the subject matter here and despite the presentation of the subject matter, I'm not actually a huge fan of horror movies. So when I finally had decided on the Amityville Horror, because I did have access to both of those movies, I was like, it's okay, but I wish I could do something that's a little more in my wheelhouse. So just deciding on what I wanted to review was a little more challenging this time than it was in any of the other rounds that we've done. Also, doing the video differently. All of my other videos have been me sitting in front of a computer, reading my script, and then editing down the bits that I don't want, the mistakes, lines that maybe don't necessarily contribute to the video and are just making the runtime go longer, editing it down so that it fits within the time frame. Whenever I'm sitting outside and I'm doing all the parts outside, talking to the camera like I'm doing now, it's a lot harder for me to, looking at the footage that I have, say, okay, this is all going to fit within 4 minutes. It was a lot harder for me to edit this and try and figure out, okay, this is going to work, because I had footage that I had filmed outside, and then I had to read the rest of what I had written inside, reading it, and then I had to try and match the audio, and it still didn't work great, but since we had a couple of extensions on the deadline here, I was able to re-record a lot of the audio, and that actually made the sound quite a bit better. It's still not perfect, but that's going to happen when I'm sitting 6 feet from the camera, and then when I'm sitting 6 inches from the camera. There's going to be a little bit of a difference in audio there, but I really couldn't help that. I tried to make it work to the best of my ability, but it didn't work the way I wanted it to work. But if I had to choose one thing that was the hardest thing about this video, I would say whenever I'm adding footage of myself talking to the camera like I am now, and then doing audio over still images, it's a lot harder to edit something like that, and it's a lot harder to make sure that it's under time, because I could have gone over a minute over. I could have gone 30 seconds over even. It wouldn't have had to have been much, but I had no real way of timing myself doing it the way that I did. And I did the way that I did because I was trying to take the advice of some of the judges. At least one of the judges twice now has kind of suggested that maybe I should be on camera a lot more. And so finally, I went ahead and bit the bullet, and I did that.
I don't know if it worked or not. That kind of leads into one of their other questions. Do you think that you're going to get top banana this round? And also another question that I feel like I answer both of these questions at the same time every time I do one of these videos. How do you feel about this video in comparison to your last video? Both of these questions. Do I feel like I'm going to get top banana? Probably not. Like last time, I think that I'm safe from being eliminated. I like to think that I am not going to be eliminated, but I also don't think that this is going to be the best video this round. I still think that I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not going to be voted off, I don't think, but I'm also not going to get top banana. So that's where I think I fall there. And how is this video in comparison to my last one? Well, I'm playing the game, so there is that. I don't necessarily... It's hard for me to answer this question every single time that it's asked because I'm too close to it. A few other people said this is a really good video, but then again, I've had a few other people say that about all of my Who Reviews the Reviewers entries, and then in retrospect, I look back and I say, the judges were right about that. I really shouldn't have done that, or I should have done that differently. And so it's really hard for me to tell, is this better than my last round? I personally enjoyed the last round a lot more. I thought it was more fun, and I'm always going to prefer staying away from the camera. When I'm doing a scripted video, I want to be off the camera as much as I can because it's easier for me to just read the script that I've written for myself and do it off of camera. It's a lot harder for me to present the script sitting in front of the camera like I am now. So I've got a few biases against this video, but at the same time, I am playing the game. I'm taking some of the advice from the judges, and I'm rolling with it. Is it going to make the video better? I don't know. Maybe the judges are going to watch this and they're going to say, hey, there's a good reason why this guy stays behind the camera. Don't ever do that again. If that's the case, then I'll never do it again, and I'd be happy to never do it again. The last question, what would I do differently this round? This one is kind of hard to answer because we had two separate extensions on the deadline. I had a lot more time to work on this video than I did any of my others, and so I had a lot more time to think about this is something that needs to be improved. Like I said, I went back and re-recorded the audio, and so that's something that if we didn't have any of the extensions, the audio was going to just be as it was, and it wasn't going to be good, but I was just going to leave it because I didn't think that I would have enough time to re-record it and re-edit it. But then when I saw that we had yet another extension, I was like, you know what, I've got plenty of time here. The deadline was almost 2 weeks away at that point, and so I said, I'm just going to go ahead and re-record the audio. I don't think that there's really anything that I would do differently. Maybe if I knew that the movie was going to be taken off of Netflix when it was, I would have gotten much more screenshots while I was watching the movie. I would have gotten a lot more screenshots in that day that I was watching it and the day after before it was taken off of the internet, and then I wouldn't have had to have used any low resolution pictures at all, or at the very least lower resolution photos, because I've used screenshots from the movies before and the judges still say that those pictures are way too low quality, so maybe that's just always going to be a problem for me. That's all the questions, so I hope that I can stick around for this round. I hope that all of you other guys are, I wish all of you the best of luck. Of course, there can be only one, so good luck to all of you. One of you won't be sticking around, maybe one of me, maybe I won't be sticking around. Regardless, I still wish all of you the best of luck. May the odds ever be in your favor, so take care.
All right, moving on to MrGoodPlot and his review of Clash of the Titans. Oh, I also meant to mention that it's really funny. This season we've had a whole lot of surprisingly coincidental lining up of what we watch in what order. And I'm just doing it in the order they come in. But like we get that review of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then he mentions it, and in the very next thing we watch, that's I don't know. That's just amazing. It's fate.
I remember that's kind of the order I watched them in. I watched the Willy Wonka review first, and then the Amityville. And I was like, oh my god, are we going to get like 8 videos about Willy Wonka?
My son.
I believe a remake is warranted only if enough time has passed, because it's a chance to see how different generations handle the same story. In this case, it's the Greek myth of Perseus, that other heroic offspring of the god Zeus. Your father has to stop. But this is not a case of two different movies adapting the same material. The 2010 Clash of the Titans shared the same changes that the 1981 film did to the mythology. Both have Perseus save Princess Andromeda from the Kraken instead of Cetus, Cetus, Cetus. But the biggest difference between the two films I've noticed is the dynamic between the humans and the gods. In the original Clash, I view the gods as these competitive players of a strategy game, and the game pieces are their children they left on Earth. But what's a game to the gods is a matter of life and death for the humans and demigods, who just simply accept this as life and deal with the challenges. But in the new Clash, the conflict is basically between all of the gods and all of the humans. If gods overthrow the Titans, then humans can overthrow the gods, since these gods rely on human prayer to power them. Now at first I thought this was a commentary on the dwindling amount of religion currently, but after another viewing, what if it's an allegory of current politics? The gods are the politicians, the humans are the working class, the prayer is the tax money, the Kraken is the spike in taxations, the soldiers getting Medusa's head is the tea party, the witches are the news heads, and since the humans look to Perseus, the demigod, as their savior from the regular gods, that means we need to rely on Sasha and Malia to save us from the government. Okay, so, politics is not my strong suit. But the rest of the changes seem to be just for the sake of changes. Does this come in black? Oh, let's combine these two characters to save time. Oh, let's dwindle the role of that robot owl down to a cameo. Oh, let's get rid of the poet, the vulture, and the 2/3 of Cerberus to make room for an immortal mentor who keeps dying, Middle Eastern Balkan skull, and Pinocchio wizard. I enjoy seeing the classic stop-motion effects of Ray Harryhausen get reinterpreted into modern CGI. I'm doing it. I'm sort of doing it. Now do it in the new way. No. I believe that the first Clash was paying tribute to older fantasy films, so it's understandable that the lead did not have that much character to him. But the new Clash clearly wants to be a modern film, so it's less forgivable that his only character trait here is, "I'm not my father!" So the original Clash triumphs, because with its allegory, it still had fun with the mythology aspects. The original gets 86, while the remake gets 73. Also, the new Clash has no nudity. Well, that changes everything.
Man, for me, the first time I watched this, of course I laughed. The humor's amazing. It's really funny. And then I got to the end and I was like, I think that was a good review, but I don't remember what in it told me what I would feel about the movie or how I would think about the movie. And then in watching it a second time, what I realized was he's giving a lot of information about these two movies, how they compare to each other, those kind of things. And it's probably 2/3 into the review before he really starts, talking about, parts of the movie. And there's not a lot there. And I realized it's more of an informational kind of comparison than it really is a review. And I think part of that is because he's trying to review both movies, if that makes sense.
See, I don't know, though. I'm so not sure, because I think so much of how he thinks and feels about things is implied in his sarcasm.
Right, no, it's obvious he likes the old one better, and I think we know why he likes the old one better in many ways, because he likes the stop motion of Harryhausen and the mythology, and he mentions those things. But I come away from it and I go, what does he think about the new Clash of the Titans? What are his pros and cons when he comes away from it, so that I can gauge, okay, what do I think about that, and might I like the movie? And I don't know if coming away from this review, if I would truly know whether or not I would like this movie or not based on what he said.
Yeah, so it's just he likes the old one better, but the other one standing on its own. If he just watched it and didn't watch the original, what kind of movie is it? How is it? Yeah. He does give us the main character. There's not enough to the main character in a movie that's kind of pretending like there is. Okay, but you're right. Maybe we don't have enough more. Any rebuttals?
I feel like he kind of justified it in the beginning with kind of his whole discussion of remakes in general. Can that just kind of set it up? And I mean, let's be honest. Like the new one was really just a cash-in anyway.
It was.
So yeah, doesn't really bother me. I mean, if he hadn't had the 2 percentages at the end, I probably wouldn't have even thought of it.
And I don't know that it's even really. I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know that it's really a bad thing that he did that. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish he hadn't done that because it does kind of feel like he's seeing it as I'm reviewing both simultaneously, and that just wasn't, at least for this challenge, that wasn't the job. I do think reviewing 2 films at the same time that are one's a remake and the other one is kind of an interesting idea. I think if you had 20 minutes, you could maybe pull that off.
So help me out with this.
Yeah.
So I think he gave the new one a 73. Was that the percentage he put on it? What
Not 0.
Well, yes. Yes, understood. My question is, what did he like about the new one that it wasn't lower than that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
What is there in the review that tells me why he liked it, or what there was about the new one that he, did enjoy? Maybe it's there and I just missed it when, those few times I watched it.
Well, he said he enjoyed seeing how the effects were updated, but I don't know if he really likes the effects. I was
going to say, I thought that was a strike. Maybe I missed that.
Well, I mean, he says, it was neat to see how that was attempted, but I don't really know what his read was on it. The whole political allegory thing, is that one elaborate joke, or does he have something there? You know what I mean? Because he might, because you get to the end of it, he's like, politics aren't my strong suit, but I think he is maybe a little bit onto something, so he might be saying there's kind of some fun allegory there, and I'm just not qualified to analyze it. I don't know.
He could be saying that. I mean, he could also be saying, he could also be making fun of the fact that, someone would actually give that in-depth of thought to the Clash of the Titans remake.
Yeah. Speaking as someone who has a tendency to spend way too much time with things that just are not worth it, I totally understand. That resonates with me a lot. Let's hear from Lance Fusion.
In terms of the political allegory, it's one of those things where I guess if you think he's being serious about it, then it's a really interesting high concept idea for a review. But if he's just joking, then I guess you end up thinking you just wasted about half of the review talking about nothing.
I think it's both. I think it's gotta be both, because it's kind of in there.
I'm pretty sure I put this in my notes where it's like I'm not even sure what to think about this, because it's like you have to have the big political allegory thing, and there's just like a bullet point of really funny kind of, combine these characters, get rid of 2/3 of Cerberus. And it's like, part of me wants to say, well, couldn't we have delved more in depth about these kinds of things? They're actually what the movie's about. But on the other hand, I'm thinking that wouldn't have been nearly as memorable or entertaining if he hadn't done it as just a sort of rapid fire kind of thing. And so I'm like, I believe I said, I kind of want to criticize you for this, but at the same time, it works for me, so I'm not sure if I can.
Sometimes the entertainment factor gets in the way, right? Where you're like, well, you've communicated partly with the humor what you think of the thing. Maybe it's not as detailed as I would have liked it, but I was engaged the whole day. You had me like I get duped. Sometimes I think with things like this into thinking that they're better reviews than maybe they are, but then I don't even want to say that about this because I don't think it's a bad review. There are his other videos. We have sometimes complained that he has a tendency to give more synopsis than actually delving into a thing. I don't think he had that problem here. I mean, Aaron's saying that there's a lot of information, and I do agree with that, but it's not just and then this happens and then this happens. A lot of it is his read on things. He does say about the old one, this is a big chess match. The new one maybe is a political allegory, if that's not just a joke. But it's not. But I mean, I feel like he gives you a bit of a synopsis up front, and then he kind of delves into things. It's not like the website thing where it's like, and then this is here, and this is here. So he's improved there, I think. Let's hear some more from Manos.
All right. I do think there's quite a bit of comparison, which I didn't have any problem with. And I think a lot during this video, he uses it as a way to point out the inherent problems in this remake. And also, I love the political allegory part, because I do love that kind of stuff. And I think the way I took it, my read on that joke was this film maybe suggests something political, but it's not as smart. So he really kind of digs into what it could have gone. Because I mean, there is some like interesting parallels there. Like, oh the talking heads of of TV news, could be thought of in those ways, and it actually makes me think of a much better film that could have been made. And of course, he does use humor to pick apart here and there. Essentially, like calling the film a pretty shallow experience in comparison to the first film. So I got enough of a review, frankly. I mean, it wasn't, of course, like a completely in-depth point by point, but I think he balanced it well enough that I felt I had a review there, as well as some very, very funny bits. Like I loved the bit where he played a god grabbing himself and putting himself into the review.
He has an action figure of himself. I love that.
Yeah, with a little Mr. Goodbot and a little Mr. Goodhop.
Okay, so I hate to admit this, but thank you so much for explaining that to me. I had no idea what I was looking at. I got the rabbit, the robot thing, but I didn't pick up that was a figure of him. I looked at it really close, I couldn't figure it out.
Have you seen the original Clash of the Titans?
Yeah, I have. I just didn't realize that was a figure of GoodPlot. I just didn't even. So I didn't understand what he was doing. I was like, wait. So you took somebody and turned him into Neo from the Matrix? I don't know what's going on right now. I couldn't. Anyway. So thank you for explaining that to me. It's a good joke now. And apparently, and don't
let's watch it again.
And don't take
Jokes
this.
are always better when you explain them.
No, they're not. But that's why I was gonna say, GoodPlot. Don't take this as like your joke's not working overall, because apparently I'm the only one that had that problem. So anyway.
Also, I want to make a point of reference. Like, did anybody look at that board behind him?
Yeah, it's got all our pictures on it.
Yeah, I didn't see. Oh, that's scary.
I didn't notice that.
That's
He's
terrifying.
been doing that for the last couple videos. All our pictures are on the back, and several of the contestants and everything.
I think it's really cool that he subtly is doing that as a nod to the contest, but not making a big deal out of the contest. That is cool, because it's like part of his supervillain world thing, right? Where like he's got a hit list or whatever. He's got us all like I wonder if he's Xing off people as they leave. He should think about doing that.
I've been feeling a strange pain in my shoulder. I don't know. That's where the
oh my god, maybe he has little action figures of all of us. He's got voodoo figures, and oh my god, no.
Anybody else of Sid?
I take it all back. I loved the video. It was amazing.
Everything about it. Isn't it cool, by the way, that we haven't, until just now, we hadn't said word one about the gimmick. We're all on board with it at this point.
Absolutely.
Like, completely. Yeah. We're not. It's not even coming up. It just works now.
It really is not even an issue anymore. It works. I like the gimmick.
Lance.
I was just saying, like, now that I'm being told about this, the pictures of us in the back, does that remind anybody else of Sid Part 2 from Season 2? When after he got voted off, he would make all those supplement videos of like gathering all the old contestants together and plotting ways to get back at us. Remember that?
Yeah, he had this whole giant elaborate kill Captain Logan scheme, and I can't remember if he wanted to kill all the judges or if it was just me. I don't remember. But then I saw him a few years ago at I don't know why we're talking about this at Superman Celebration, and we did a video together, and he was like, "Well, I could kill you right now, but I'm not going to."
Is that why you made us all sign that waiver when we agreed to be judges?
Yeah. I cannot be held responsible.
At least the money's good.
That's right.
Well, anyway, yeah, so moving right along.
Yeah, thanks for paying me in wampum bucks.
So why did I choose Clash of the Titans? Well, it was like the 4th or 5th choice. At first I wanted to do Death at a Funeral, but I didn't have access to that. And then afterwards, I had recently gotten Netflix, so I decided to use that DVD section to look for possible movies. And I thought, okay, Time Machine is there. How about Time Machine? But it turns out it's not really a remake as it is just a second adaptation. And then I thought about Frankenweenie, but I guess the remake is more like an extension of the original short, since, you know, the original is a short. So finally I decided on Clash of the Titans, and at first I thought, well, how can I do some kind of funny bit out of that? But then I came out with something, and you probably know what it is. But and then it wasn't until after I ordered the DVDs and they were in the middle of shipping that oh, Death at the Funeral is. It turns out they actually have DVDs on Netflix. I could have gotten them, but I felt it was too late at that point. I already told Captain Logan that I was choosing that, and I didn't want to go back on my word, so I decided on that. The biggest difficulty would have to be making sure I reviewed the whole movie and not just one aspect of it, because I felt like hopefully the political allegory that I added in, hopefully that did not take up too much of the video. And also the difficulty was making sure I reviewed the remake more than the original, because I believe that was the intent, is that we're reviewing the remake, but we do get to sprinkle a little bit of about comparisons to the original. But I felt like maybe it was too much like a half and half situation. And the reason why I had both scores is because, you know, I talked so much about the original, I might as well put the score. But since the political allegory, I think, takes up a huge chunk of the video, hopefully that means that I did what was intended, because that political part was just about the remake. So what would I have done differently? Well, if this deadline had not been pushed back, I would have probably said quite a few more things, because I had edited the whole entire review, and I had it on YouTube, and just a millisecond later I was notified that, oh, we're postponing the video. So I thought, okay, here's a chance to make it better. And I guess my regret is that I realized after I released the new version, you know, the new cut of the review, it still has a huge chunk dedicated to that allegory. So will I get top banana? Well, despite feeling a little bit more confident in this cut of the review than the original, which, by the way, is privatized and not deleted, because for some reason YouTube will not let me delete my videos. Despite that, I don't feel completely confident I'll get top banana. Honestly, I do feel a little bit worried, a little bit concerned, but not too concerned. Just, you know, I'm just like, So no, I don't think I'll get top banana, but I possibly, maybe I got top banana last time, since we don't find out about our top bananas until the next round. So so there's that, I guess, to look forward to whether or not that happened, but probably not, because of the Sasquatch guy. But I say what I am cautiously confident in is not being booted out. There's that to look forward to, but I do intend to get top banana next time, if there is a next time. Good luck, my son, because if you make it to the next round, you will be that much closer to your fate.
I apologize. Did I repeat the same joke?
Alright, let's go ahead and move on now to the Dawn of the Dead review from Squatch Gang.
There are two types of people in a zombie apocalypse. People who like zombie culture and people who get eaten. One of the most influential movies of zombie culture is George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, released in 1978. It may not be the best movie when it comes to acting, makeup, or extras, but it's regarded as a classic because of all the iconic imagery it contains, like zombie-filled parking lots, zombies at the mall, zombie children, murdering zombie children, zombie Osama bin Laden, abandoned mall montage, this guy's face. So 26 years later, in 2004, we get a Dawn of the Dead remake directed by Zack Snyder and written by James Gunn. The remake takes the concept of people being trapped in a mall during a zombie apocalypse from the original, but gives us a new cast of characters and tells a similar but different story. Now, one positive right off the bat is the fact that this movie stands on its own as a film and doesn't rely on people having seen the original. There are things like cameos of actors from the original and visual references for fans to pick up on, but the film doesn't rely on fan service to carry it. Instead, it provides its own iconic imagery like super fast T-1000 zombie, guy getting hit by an ambulance, fortified zombie killing bus, zombie celebrity lookalike, communicating using dry erase boards, falling into the bathtub, slow-mo toilet window smash. I should probably note that this movie does contain Zack Snyder's signature slow-mo close-up shots. They don't personally bother me, but I still don't understand why we have to have slow-mo toilet window smashing. Now, giving us a whole new cast of characters was a risky move because you're always going to have those stupid idiot faces out there who are going to complain that it's not the exact same as the original, but I think in this case it was a smart move because the ensemble cast of characters we get is actually pretty good. They're not the deepest of characters, but they're mostly well acted and each feels distinct. It also helps that most of them fill specific roles within the group that make them relevant, like Michael, who's the leader and is good at coming up with all the plans, Anne, who's a nurse and is the person who tries to keep the group level-headed, CJ, who knows the layout of the mall and understands where everything is because he used to work there pre-apocalypse, and Steve, who is a total narcissistic jerkface but owns a boat so they need him to escape the city. There are a lot of scenes of characters just sitting around talking, which have the potential to be really boring, but luckily the dialogue in this movie helps to develop who these characters were before the apocalypse hit. A good example of this is when the group is talking about past jobs that each was worst and best at, and when it's Michael's turn to answer, he says that he was worst at being a husband, but best at being a dad. Dialogue like this helps to keep these characters from feeling like generic mannequins just waiting to die. Unfortunately, there are some scenes where characters will do something really stupid that makes you just go, what? Like when Michael walks into a sporting goods store and decides, wow, this wooden croquet mallet looks like a much better weapon than this metal crowbar. That's like if I walked into a house with a knife and decided, wow, these spaghetti noodles look like a much better weapon for killing zombies. These moments where characters do really stupid things are few and far between, but when they happen, you can't help but feel as if the characters are being a little inconsistent because normally they act much smarter. I'd also like to point out this one scene where Michael looks directly into the camera. It's like he just made a joke in a TV sitcom and is waiting for the audience's laughter like, wow, and I thought this mall was dead before. But overall, I think this movie really works as a remake because it's not afraid of doing something different from the original. Oftentimes, remakes have a hard time bringing new things to the table and can feel like pointless cash-ins on familiar franchises, but Dawn of the Dead escapes this because it embraces how much zombie movies had changed in 26 years since the original. We go from the slow, lumbering zombies of the 70s to the fast, screaming zombies of more modern zombie films of video games. It's almost like a zombie retrospective in that way. Like, this is where we started, and this is how far we've come. The Dawn of the Dead remake is a movie made for people who like zombies, but that doesn't mean that you won't like it just because zombies may not be your thing. It's funny, suspenseful, and if we take out the nostalgia factor, it's probably better than the original. The 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake gets 4.5 Squatches out of 6.
I just want to put out a quick plug real fast for the new rock band that I'm putting together with these guys. It's called Slow-Mo Toilet Window Smash. Let's start this time with Mr. Aaron Dyson.
Sure thing. Another great review from Squatch Gang. I think he has a real sense of his style and what he does. You know, we talk about the Ken Burns effect and the inserts and different things like that. I think he has the best rhythm of those inserts of anybody in the competition that I've seen so far. He knows how to punctuate his lines with the perfect pictures so well. Like, he tells the story with the pictures so well, which makes it a little weird, I guess, that one of my nitpick things with this one is that he's not on screen more because I love those pictures so much. I missed him on screen this time. He was at the beginning and the end, but throughout the whole thing, I think we're just showing pictures. Maybe I'm missing him popping in for a section, but
he pops in here and there.
Does he really?
Yeah, there's a isn't there like one or two bits where because like, or maybe it is just at the end. Well, the fact that I can't remember, I just watched it,
but it's from his perspective.
Yeah, and that's just a gag. Like that doesn't
insert.
count as much because it's not just him talking. But I love that he does those because it just it adds some variety and shows some production value.
Absolutely. That really is my only nitpick with the video. I think he does great work, and he's really funny. I just think the humor is so spot on. And he does that section where he does the Osama bin Laden zombie. That section, did it feel a little MrGoodPlot to you? Like it felt like that was like kind of that sense of humor. He kind of like, you mentioned them borrowing from each other. I thought that was really cool. So I thought it was great.
Actually, they felt like Red Letter.
It's Red Letter Media, yeah. I don't see how it's not directly influenced by that, and the fact that he did it twice. Because the thing is, if you haven't seen Red Letter Media, there is no reason that he goes into a weird, different voice with those.
Yes,
that
makes sense.
Is the thing. I don't know why he's doing that. I mean, like the list thing is not really. I don't think Red Letter Media has the monopoly on that. I think other people do that. I did lists before I ever saw him, but I don't know. I think that's gotta be that. And the fact that he does it twice and he keeps going into that voice, I think that's gotta be it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't put that together. No, that's I'm sure what he's doing. The only other nitpicking thing I would say is not to fall in a rut with his ending. We had such a good reaction last week with the pop-up ending or whatever, that it kind of feels like a retread of that. That's fine because it can be funny, but always be doing something new, and especially in a contest like this, I think it's important to always have something about what you're doing that is different than you've done before, so that it catches attention and kind of stretches you in that way. But I thought it was great, and the review part of it was great. It was very detailed, and I loved it.
Go ahead, Manos.
All right. This one was a really good, solid review. I do think the week before, it's funny when we call it weeks, like we do the show weekly.
Let's just keep pretending. Yeah, man behind the curtain.
Last eon, when we reviewed.
Back during the Bush administration, when we had...
I don't know why it takes us so long. We all live in the same house.
Anyway, sorry, get to my point. I think the previous week was a little bit sharper. But it's funny how when you look at some of these videos, it's like, what a huge impact and influence Red Letter Media has had. And some of us tend to focus on the big name reviewers like Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel. Maybe for the generation before, but the internet has, Video Game Nerd and Nostalgia Critic. But yeah, you can't sell short the Red Letter Media, especially in particular the Star Wars prequels reviews. I think have had a huge effect on a lot of technique, which frankly I enjoy the technique a lot. So it's interesting to see that kind of trickle throughout the fandoms actually, and people kind of like doing their own thing. This one was really good, and also this is probably out of the more humorous ones. This one really is a really good detailed oriented review that kind of does like pick into the movie. I'm also glad he also chose to pick a remake that was as good or maybe even better than the previous version. So. Like I mentioned before, it's just easy to go, hey, the remake sucks, blah, blah, blah. I thought this one was really good.
It's funny, sometimes it's hard not to look at the group as a piece, even though obviously it's not. So, like, you start wanting to praise people for things they couldn't have possibly done on purpose. You're like, thanks so much for giving us some variety so that every single one of these isn't just, see, this is why we should stop remaking everything. We really appreciate that, but it's not like they knew what everybody else was doing.
That's true. They could have all have been praising remakes.
Go ahead, Lance.
I thought this was a good one as well, and it's another review that's outside, just like with Comics Kid.
Yeah.
So the trail keeps on going farther down the rabbit hole. But I loved his cutaways. It's one thing to have go into the horror movie cliches about making stupid decisions, which is a very valid point. But it's been done before. It's another thing to add in a joke about what a really terrible weapon would be. But going the extra mile. I think I've seen videos in this contest do that before. But it's going the extra mile to actually film yourself walking into a house with a knife, switching it out for spaghetti, and then beat a zombie with it. So I think in general most of these videos did a good job this week of actually taking either its subject matter or taking each contestant's sort of personal stamp and really sort of running with it. And I think this is a really good example of one that really just took the whole zombie thing and just really didn't do it too overblown, but was it complemented the video really well.
Alex, have we heard from you yet?
No, I don't have too much to say because it's just a really good review. I think part of what makes it so good, just from a writing perspective, is he almost never says something without also bringing up a piece of evidence to support his point. And so just kind of all the way through, it's just really solid. He'll make a point and then back it up. So I buy everything that he says.
I also really appreciate his emphasis. There's a lot of work beaches here. I also, wow, too bad we all live in the same house. We're all gonna die. I really appreciate his emphasis whenever he does narrative, because we've seen it from him like I guess 3 times if you count his intro video, his audition. His emphasis on characterization. He always comes from a story place, and I really like that. Of course, me being a story guy, but also because that's why we do movies, right? It's about telling a story, and so when whatever he's talking about, he always hones in on that. It's not just the cinematography is good or bad, or the music is good or bad. He always brings that stuff, even when he's talking about the technical, how it's made side, back to how does it make the storytelling more or less effective? And I really appreciate that. I also really like, and I hope he keeps running with this, that it seems like a lot of the time whenever he'll do a review of a movie, some kind of narrative, he likes to do a checklist of the principal characters and tell us whether or not they serve the story. In comparing this to his AVP review, Requiem, I think it's really interesting that he does the same kind of checklist, but this time he's using their actual names because they're real people. I feel like with him, the more I see from him, there's almost kind of a continuity building as far as the way he looks at this stuff. It's really consistent, and it's not repetitive. So anyway, I'm really impressed with him for his understanding of storytelling, and it's the way he looks at it is simple but insightful. The phrase that kept coming to me was above and beyond this week. When we talk about Lance cutaways, we had a lot of people this week that did they have to do it? Did they have to stage stuff? Did they have to use makeup and build things? And no, they didn't have to. But the fact that they do it shows a lot of care and thoughtfulness, and adds a little bit to that production value. We've had contestants in the past do that, but I feel like this season we've gotten more of it than we've ever had before. Everybody's kind of pushing each other up. And I'm sorry, Alex, we had that a lot last season, right? Where like, you and Rockman, you had to work together some, but also since you were, contestants on opposing sides, you were bumping heads a lot, and so you would keep challenging each other. I feel like we're seeing that this season from everybody for the most part. And that's really exciting. They're all challenging, and I don't feel like they're ripping each other off. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that they're borrowing, it's like I don't know that they aren't necessarily going, oh look, that guy did a cutaway thing. Maybe I should do that. But if they're doing that again, they're doing it in a thoughtful way where they say, how can I make that my style? Instead of how can I rip off somebody else's style. How can I? It's not how can I be superhero enthusiast. It's how can I take something he did and make it. Now you can't. It's not possible. It's not possible.
What's up, guys? I got the questions here, and I'm going to answer them for you again. So let's go. So, why did I pick this subject for review? So I picked this subject, which was the Dawn of the Dead remake, because Dawn of the Dead is a movie that is, you know, it's not the thing that comes to your mind when you think of remakes. Typically, people think of, you know, like horror movie remakes, or like King Kong, or like just like, you know, one of those like really, really like well-known remakes. And Dawn of the Dead is not that kind of movie that people immediately go to when they think of like remakes in general, I don't think. So I just thought it'd be kind of cool to review a movie that a lot of people probably even haven't heard of. I bet there's a lot of people out there that maybe didn't even know it was a remake of another movie at some point. So I don't know. So I just wanted to pick it because it kind of seemed like a unique remake to review, and a little bit less obvious. So the hardest part of making this video was probably I had to because I filmed some things outside, I had to use a microphone outside, and so I had to take this microphone and I had to put it like on a mic stand, and I had to carry that up, and then I had to get like this audio recorder box thing and I had to plug it into there, and then I had to like record the audio separately and like sync it, and it was just a big process that was kind of just hectic and a hassle. But I mean, that was probably the hardest part, really. Other than that, I didn't have too much trouble with much of anything else. Just, you know, a lot of hassle with that, I guess. What would I change if I could go back and change something? I don't actually have a lot that I would go back and change if I could. One thing, the time cap for this challenge was 4 minutes, and I didn't quite reach 4 minutes, which I don't think is a problem, but you know, my video just kind of turned out shorter than that, you know, and I made it. You know, I made what I had envisioned. I just made that, and, you know, it wound up a little bit shorter than 4 minutes, so I don't think that's a problem. But if I could go back, I might, you know, just utilize that little bit of time that I didn't, that the video didn't continue on to. So, I don't know. Maybe just make it, you know, the full exact 4 minutes. I don't know. Other than that, though, there's not much that I would really change. Do I think I'll get top banana this week? I don't think that you actually. Okay, so if there was a week that I was gonna get viewer top banana, I think it would be this week, because the judges really liked my video last week and they had a lot of nice things to say about it. So I think that if there was a week that I was gonna get top banana, maybe it would be this week. Viewer top banana, maybe it would be this round, because maybe some of the things the judges had to say, viewers might have agreed with, and maybe they thought I deserved viewer top banana that week. I don't know. So, just potentially. So if there was a time when I would get viewer top banana, I think it would be maybe this round, but who knows? I could be wrong. So, how do I feel about my performance this round compared to last? You know, honestly, I think that really, I've kind of gotten in a little bit of a groove with these videos. So, you know, it was the first couple times, you know, you're a little bit nervous, but making this one was a lot more just natural and not so difficult, really, for me. You know, it was just kind of, you know, I'd done it a couple times, so it just kind of came a little bit easier this time than the previous videos. So yeah, and I thought that I would just comment about like the hardest part of making like a remake review. The hardest part of making like a remake review is that, you know, with reviews, it's kind of hard to know what you really are supposed to critique or review on. Because, you know, like, some people think that a remake should be exactly like the original was, like, follow it scene for scene, like the Psycho remake. If you've ever seen the Psycho remake, it's like a shot-for-shot remake, pretty much. Some people think that that's good, like, that it should. Some people, like me, think that, you know, it's like certain movies you just shouldn't remake, but other movies, if you're gonna remake them, do something a little bit different, bring something new to the table. So, you know, kind of deciding what you're gonna review a remake based upon is kind of the hardest part of, like, a remake review in general. And also, just a little comment. So, my rating system, I thought I'd kind of explain why I picked 6 Squatches instead of, like, 4 or 5. I just picked 6 because I really like that number. That's kind of random. I just honestly, there's not really a reason behind it. I just randomly was like, okay, I like 6, a rating system of 1 to 6. So that's really the only reason why I picked that. So thanks for listening, guys, and see you guys later. Peace out.
Move on now to Matt's review of Spy Hunter.
Agent. Agent.
What? What do you want?
We have a new mission for you. We've provided you a car. Details are in the glove box. Be careful. You might have company.
Let's do this. Ah, Spy Hunter. It's a remake and sort of kind of a sequel to this game. God, I want one of those. It was a pretty big deal back in '83. No story, no grand evil plot, just you, the road, and the baddest spy car since the Aston Martin. I was introduced to the franchise through this game. Played as a kid. Never understood the name though. Do you hunt spies? Are you a spy who also hunts? Are you Ethan Hunt? Because I'd play that. Well, according to the manual, you play as Alex Sex, as he tries to stop Nostra International, a company whose logo is so blatantly evil it makes Umbrella Corp look humanitarian. You see, Damon Curry, that's this guy, is way too into Nostradamus and wants to fulfill his destiny by bringing Armageddon to the world, and he believes you are the same spy that stopped his first plan in 1983. For starters, ignore Mr. Sex. His name isn't even brought up in-game. You really play as the G6155 Interceptor. This car is freaking awesome. Machine guns, rockets, oil slicks, it even transforms into a boat. This thing would give the Batmobile a drive for its money. Cause they're both You drive through several missions, each with their own primary and secondary objectives. The original didn't really have missions, you just kind of drove and fought enemies. And there's a score counter. And oh my god, I suck at this game. Each objective you complete gets you a point. You need a certain amount of points to unlock the next mission. You'll need to replay each level several times until you can do it perfectly and get all the objectives in one go. There's fun to be had here, but not for everyone. Some people don't like replaying missions over and over and over until you're so close only to botch it because you accidentally hit a civilian and now you have to do the whole stage over for the 15th time and you just want to rip your hair out. But the controls are simple and intuitive, and the graphics are solid. The textures are a bit muddy, meaning things blend together a bit, which can be an issue when you're trying to avoid oncoming threats. But the frame rate is smooth and never really dropped unless I was right behind a smoking enemy car. Blowing up bad guys and exploring the stages is fun, if a bit tedious at times, and a lot of varied enemy types were brought over from the original game. So all in all, I'd say this is a pretty successful remake. It took what was great about the original and ran with it, taking the formula in a new direction while staying true to what made the game good. And this version of the game even comes with the original on it, so I'd pick it up. I'm ThatMattKid, and I'll see you around.
I love how he's like, this car is awesome, and then his car, not so much.
You know, I've always been fascinated by the horsemen of the apocalypse, but I don't remember war in the Bible carrying a giant...
Let's do that one again. All right, darn your YouTube and your auto going to another video thing. Okay, so somebody said that somebody else this week was most improved and listened to the took our comments to heart really well and stuff. I'm gonna give that reward to this guy this week. My goodness, was I impressed with his changing up his format and his style a little bit. And did he not just seem a whole lot more relaxed this time? The jokes hit much better than I think they have before. The snarkiness worked really well for me. The pacing was fabulous. It felt like a longer review and in a good way. I don't know how he managed to pack in as much about this as he did. Maybe it helps that maybe the choice helps because it's not a really complicated choice, but the fact that you know it's a 4-minute review and he's able to do that kind of reviewing where he'll stop and he'll make he'll say like a word or two just to be funny, and he'll kind of stop and he'll let the music work for him a little bit, and then he'll start to say something else a little bit, and it's all in giving us a sense of the kind of experience that he had playing the game. So we learn a lot about what he thinks about it, not just from him saying this works, this doesn't, but also just he's relaying his experience of the game, and we feel like we're kind of there with him playing it in a way. I don't know how he does that in 4 minutes. This is hands down his best video. What do you think, Aaron Dicer?
I totally agree. I echo everything you said. He was told, get out of your room, do something new, do something fun, and boy did he ever. That intro is
Ever the parent.
What's that?
Ever the parent.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, go outside and play, you crazy kids.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was great. I thought it all worked. I thought the humor worked very well. The only thing I could nitpick on is I want, and this is maybe a personal thing, I want some sort of rating. I want some sort of score, something to tell me, like, to let me put it in some sort of objective, comparison to other things. But I get that, some people don't do that, and that's okay. But that would be the one thing I think might have helped me at the end go, okay, I can objectively place kind of where you rank this kind of thing. But no, I agree completely. I thought the humor was dead on, and it was a really, really good review. And you're absolutely right. He looks so much more comfortable doing it this way, laid back.
The self-deprecating humor from him totally works. It's not too self-deprecating. He's not coming off like a masochist or anything. But he does. I don't know. He's a little bit goofier. He's a little bit. I'm sometimes kind of a moron, and he's not a moron. But that totally works.
But it's also juxtaposed. Whatever that word is.
Juxtaposed.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. I speak for a living. So it's also that with these really cool, like, actually shot well scenes. That first scene is actually shot very, very well. There's some kind of action tropes in it that are meant to be funny, I think, like, smiling before you punch a guy kind of thing. But it's just the way he chooses camera angles and that kind of stuff. He's really talented. He's got a really good eye.
I would usually, with a thing like this, open with, hey, you had 4 minutes. It was a minute in before you started reviewing. But I don't feel that way.
Right.
Like, if I'm not looking at the timestamp, the pacing totally works. It's basically a 3-minute review with a 1-minute intro, and I kind of don't care. I should care, but he gets the job done. Now maybe it's a safe choice, and we could talk about that. But anyway, go ahead, Alex.
I don't have too much to add because I think this is fantastic. The only way that I can really tell that this isn't like a professionally produced piece is just, a little bit of audio, video quality stuff. Other than that, this is like something I would watch on TV. It's really, really good.
Lance Fusion!
Hello.
To the rescue!
Actually, the funny thing about this is that it had been so long, and this format was so different than what he'd done before, and obviously gotten a different, look to himself, that until about halfway through, I couldn't put my finger on who this was.
Oh my God, Matt, you're so memorable!
I was like, oh, this is about a video game. Oh, I know who this is now, but he didn't look anything like he did before. So I was trying to figure out, has somebody been off camera before now?
Like, did this guy just crash our show? And no one noticed?
The review's so good, we're just gonna let him in.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, if this had been my decision to make, but
no one do that.
But it's one of those things where, well, actually, once again, he's outside too, just like the other two were. This is our theme this week. Is
noticing a trend?
Doing things outside, yeah.
Such a trend.
Yeah. It's funny. It's one of those things where I think doing a video game is sort of safe territory for him, but at the same time, just with me watching these, and again, it's like you said before, it's one of those things you can't really. The contestants don't know what the other people are doing. But after watching all these series of movie reviews, getting a video game review was such a breath of fresh air and really made him stand out. Not that the content itself, which was amazing, didn't already do that, but it was, just anything you can do to set yourself apart from the pack. And this is the only video game review. It was really, I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this maybe more than I would have otherwise. Which maybe isn't fair, but this is a competition, so, whatever. I was a bit on the fence about, I loved the opening, but I have to say I was kind of looking at the clock once in a while and going, wow, this is a quarter of his review.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't really feel like the 3 minutes that were left felt like they were being shortchanged any, so I'm just kind of on the fence about it.
Lance, let me ask you this. Are you questioning that only because you're a judge, or if you were actually watching this and you found it, you'd be like, okay, when does the review happen? That's my question, because I'm like this on that.
So am I, because it does feel like it belongs to a longer review, and I actually was thinking that specific thing when what we were watching it this time, is that it does feel like it should be part of a longer review. But I don't think I would really mind it if I wasn't a judge. So.
Yeah, especially if you'd seen him before. Isn't that the thing? Like, if this was the first thing you ever saw from him, you might be like, oh, this is self-indulgent, why is this so elaborate? But, like, if you already knew the guy, and then you got to that, you'd be like, oh, well, he's mixing things up and being quirky. This is interesting.
I also wanted to say that I made the point earlier during the Amityville horror one about the not necessarily having specific examples for the scare cuts, where I felt this sort of hit what I was trying to say, where he didn't go into extremely specific missions, but just getting that feeling when he was talking about the mission objectives and the frustration and the hitting the pedestrian, and just he captured that specific thing in a way that sort of captures the essence of his macro frustrations with the game, if that makes any sense. And that's sort of what I was getting at, where he really just sort of pinpointed specifically what it was overall that was annoying him.
Lance, I'm gonna steal that, man. Macro frustrations. That's going in my lexicon.
Yeah.
Manos!
I think what we're talking about here is the full minute he devotes to this wonderful joke sequence with the music and the fact that he can't drive. That was extremely funny. And the fact that, yeah, he takes up so much time in his review to devote to this material. And then the review itself is, I think, fairly in-depth and still has humor in it. I think shows that, he knows when to cut and when to be direct. And that just goes to how well directed this video is. I thought it was very funny.
Well, anything anybody else wants to bring up about this one that we haven't touched on?
Oh, why is it in full screen?
That was my question. Yeah. Oh, he might be doing that to try to ape the game or something.
Yeah,
maybe
that's the expectation of the game would be in. So.
I have to assume that he's doing that on purpose. I mean, the man's showing his directing chops because we know that he goes to school for that. There's no way that that's an accident.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it was for a reason. I just didn't know what the reason was.
He just couldn't find a widescreen camera. He was using a flip Mino from 2009.
It is certainly interesting that as far as I can remember, this is the only time anybody's done a review while driving.
Well, in the contest. Now, Aaron Dicer's done many of those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in for the contest. But
It's the first time ever. He's breaking new ground. Nobody has ever reviewed a thing driving.
But no, I think it's interesting, especially given the notes that I believe it was UCap and Aaron had said about him feeling much more natural this time. is especially impressive given the fact he was driving a car while doing it.
Yeah, you know, I kept wondering how much of it is memorized. Yeah. Go ahead, Manos. Manos. Aaron, the fake Manos.
Aaronos.
The fresh maker.
Cereal.
Manon, I don't know.
Manon.
Because I've done some driving reviews, there's actually an interesting thing that happens. It makes you more comfortable because you would think you'd have to be more on alert, and you do, but it makes the review kind of, it's like how actors will hold a prop. That prop gives them something to do with their hands and kind of creates a character. It's the same with driving. It allows you to kind of fall into who you are in many ways. I've noticed when I do driving reviews that I feel a lot more at peace and laid back than sitting in front of a camera or, doing take after take that way.
Well, in that case, I retract my compliment.
No, you still should have it though, because it's a scripted review. How much of it's memorized? What is it? Because you see stuff moving, so he's not pretending like he's driving. He's on the road. Is somebody maybe... Okay, so the question is, where's the camera? Does he have somebody with him? It's not moving around, so is it on a tripod? Is somebody maybe feeding him lines of dialogue? How's he doing it? I mean, I can think of like 15 different ways to accomplish that.
Well, I know. There's actually a guy in a truck ahead of him with cue cards.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what it is? It's just like, it's above his license plate. He's like, oh, he's squinting. He's like, oh, the joke about the guy with the face, and okay.
I picked it mostly because, obviously, it's a remake, and I played it a lot as a kid. Well, I mean, not a lot, but I definitely played it as a kid, and I have some kind of fun memories of it. And also, it's not super content heavy. I mean, it's a pretty simple game. It doesn't have, like, a crazy involved story or have a lot of, like, deep thematic ideas. Because I was going to review Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which is one of my favorite games of all time, but that game's kind of heavy. There's a lot of stuff to kind of dig into with that game. So I thought this is a game where I could kind of afford to do kind of a simpler thing, have like a skit at the beginning, something kind of concept-y, which I'll talk about, and also still get enough of the review out because it's more simple. Simple. So the most challenging part was filming that skit. That was a thing. That's another kind of part of why I picked it, was because I thought of that skit and that kind of content, that idea of like reviewing it from my car and stuff like that. So putting that skit together was pretty challenging, but it was also the thing I enjoyed the most about it. Just kind of filming and editing it, because I did some editing stuff here that is kind of some neat little editing tricks that I've always wanted to really kind of learn how to do and really kind of nail down. And filming that was a lot of fun. I storyboarded it and scripted it, and yeah, crazy. Always storyboard, folks. I can't stress that enough. So I directed it. My roommate Spencer, big shout out, big thanks to him for being the thug that I beat up. His girlfriend Anna, who is also a TCOM student, she's my boom mic operator, and also the voice of the handler. And my buddy Connor, who is not a TCOM video major, he's a film major, which is we're slightly different, but he was my cameraman and my director of photography. And he came up with a couple of the shots, like the shot of me blocking and panning over to my face, and the shot of like the camera like on Spencer kind of looking over his face while I'd walk away. Those are both shots he came up with. And so just making this was so much fun. And I'd be happy to talk more about it because it was a lot of fun. If I had more time, or if I could do it again. If I had more time, like there are some things in post that I would have liked to have do. Like if I could do it again, or if I had more time to make it, like I would have liked to have done all the audio in post in like a Pro Tools session, but I didn't really get the chance to do that. A little bit of it was done in Pro Tools, a lot of it was just done in Adobe Premiere. But I would have liked to have done all the audio in like a Pro Tools session, but that didn't really pan out. So stuff like that. And if I had more time in the actual review, there would obviously be a little bit more content, there'd be more specifics, because honestly, guys, I know this is a bit different from my last two videos, but this is really the kind of material that I want to make. This is the kind of humor that I kind of want to do. This is the kind of a concept, kind of maybe some skit stuff. Like, this is really what I want to make, and so I had a lot of fun making it. And so I don't think I would do anything differently, but if I had more time, I want to make videos that are like 7 to 10 minutes so I can have crazy jokes, but also have a lot of review material. Because my first couple videos, I cut out a lot of jokes because, we've all seen Superhero Rewind. We all know how in-depth a lot of these judges get, especially Cap. And so I thought, we have a time limit. I'd rather get in more like critical analysis stuff than jokes. But this time they want something more high concept. They want something a little bit more kind of entertaining. So I let myself be a little bit more loose with my writing and all that kind of fun stuff. If I could do it again, though, I don't know why those black bars are on the side. I mean, the aspect ratio is still correct, but they're like black bars on the side. I feel like that's part of what happens when you don't have your own editing software. We have computer labs at the schools, but you're working with an editing software and on a computer that like 5 other people have used that day. So it was probably a setting mistake. I might try to fix it and re-upload it, but if it's not too distracting, I don't think it's too much of an issue. So hopefully I won't get knocked for that. I think I'll be safe from the elimination this round. I hope. I don't know if I'll get top banana. GoodPlot is really funny this week, and Connor and Comics Kid are really good this week. But I think I'll be safe from elimination. I hope you guys really like this one. Put a lot of effort into it, and I really, so.
Let's move on now to Travis and Kaiti's review of the Evil Dead remake. Say remake is redundant right now because they're all going to be that.
Travis and Kaiti bringing us movies.
You should write their theme song, Manos. That's great.
All right, hold on.
You should no, not right now, not this very much. What you should do is you should take your camera and you should record a theme song for them and then send it to them and be like, "Can I be the opening of your theme? It's Travis and Kaiti. Here they are."
I would definitely go for a Mr. Belvedere kind of feeling.
I don't even know if you can see him.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back.
We're not in our usual spot. We're in a different spot.
We're at my apartment.
I don't know if you noticed or not.
It's a bit cleaner.
You probably don't. So we're gonna be talking about a movie that Kaiti really likes.
Evil Dead remake.
Yes, the remake of Evil Dead.
So I actually started watching the series because of my aunt, and so she showed me the second one, and then I've seen part of the third one, and I've seen the first one. But then we watched the remake, and I actually, for one, like the remake. A lot of people don't, and a lot of people do. It's kind of like evened out, but the storyline of the remake is different than the original.
Not really.
Yes, it is. It's completely different.
I've seen 5 kids go to heaven.
Yeah, but the reason why they go is different. For the first one, they go for spring break. For the second one, they're going to help the younger girl get over a heroin addiction. But then they find the Necronomicon, which is the Book of the Dead, and some idiot decides to open it when it says "Do not open," and hell breaks loose, basically. So it's really good, really gory.
I really liked the remake. I thought it improved on the horror elements of the original.
I don't know. I feel like even though this is in the horror genre, I don't know if it's really a horror movie. It's a very gory movie, because there's a lot of blood, and there's a lot of moments when there is flesh coming off and hands being torn off, and
yeah, it's mostly gory. I mean, it's not really. There's some scary moments, but it's not the purpose of the movie isn't to scare you.
Yeah, it's more like you're covering your eyes to not watch.
But I think it has a certain aesthetic of a horror movie. It has that the horror movie feel. Maybe not modern horror movie, but that definitely the classic horror movie feeling. And I think that's also why modern day horror movies, that's what they get wrong. What they don't understand is people like that aesthetic of the horror movie. They like the aesthetic. They like the feeling of those movies.
It definitely, there are points when you're like, what's gonna happen? Oh my god. But then there are other points where it's just like, oh my god, that's so gross, I don't want to watch that. But it's still a good movie. I think they put it together very well, and I think at the same time they still kept with the original. They had a very quick moment with the car from the original, the Oldsmobile that Ash drives. They have the chainsaw scene. They have the tree scene.
Yeah, I think they definitely did a good job sort of paying homage to the old ones without just copying what they did. But I mean, it's just a movie about a guy and his sister really. That's what it's really about.
True.
That like, oh, he wasn't there. Like, him not being there was like just a reoccurring theme. Like, he wasn't there for his friends. He wasn't there for
her. And then he was there because she then, at the end, she says...
You're giving the ending away.
Sorry.
Anyways.
So, overall, I like it.
I just would recommend going to see the Fright Night remake instead. Like, I really recommend seeing that movie. Like, it's just such a movie I can relate to.
You can relate to it? Are there vampires in your life?
Metaphoric vampires.
This was interesting. I can tell that they took the notes that we were giving the last time about, you know, being more review focused and less sort of, you know, crazy comedy stuff, but I don't know if I think that it worked that well. And in fact, it feels like it kind of lost the charm the rest of them had, and yet at the same time, the review elements still kind of felt so off the cuff that they didn't really end up gelling together. Like, there was that, I think there was a nice part in the middle where you know, Travis is trying to get into that aesthetic and the feeling of, you know, classic horror versus modern horror, but it just kind of, to me, kind of rambled and didn't really tie back in specifically to this film. And I think that was just the problem overall, was that it didn't have quite the charm the rest of them did, and they were trying the review, but it just didn't go far enough one way or the other, and there just needs to be some way they can harness the best parts of them, which is the you know, the chemistry between the two of them, and yet somehow still really get into that deep analytical stuff. There were still some really funny moments in there, like when he was playing with the pop vinyl, you know, Ash figure, and I thought that was kind of hilarious. But I don't think there's anything that was as laugh out loud as, say, last week.
Manos.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. I did like the fact that they chose a film that they didn't fully, well, they didn't agree on at all, actually. I thought that was actually a wise choice. Because this film particularly kind of has that split with the fandom. Some people didn't even like the idea of The Evil Dead being remade and held against it. And there were that other faction out there that's like, no, I know, but this is actually really good. And they kind of, you know, I think they did a pretty decent job kind of capturing that feeling. Problem is, I would agree that their review, their discussion does kind of tend to ramble a little bit and get lost. I actually watched the video twice to kind of get, you know, their points together, just so I could, and that's, I don't know. And, you know, it is difficult to do videos like this. I mean, this is kind of close. This is pretty close to my style, actually. I just talk and ramble sometimes. But, you know, I do my best to kind of, like, you know, stay focused. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure about this one as much.
Alex.
I'm actually a little bit more positive towards this one than Lance and Manos. I actually had the exact same point as Lance about the point that Travis made about the classic horror movie aesthetic versus the modern one. That point could potentially be brilliant. It could potentially be stupid. I don't know, because they didn't unpack it enough. And that's sort of my issue with it, is there is some really good stuff in here, and this actually is a review this time.
Yeah.
There is some nice thematic analysis in here too, of the one character, you know, not being there consistently, and how that comes up again and again. But yeah, I also kind of agree that because the good stuff is so off the cuff and undeveloped, it doesn't really come together. I feel like all the elements are here, it's just kind of not in the right ratios, and it's not, you know, it's not polished enough. But I did feel like this was kind of a move in the right direction in some ways.
Aaron Dicer.
I agree with a lot of what's been said on both sides. It is a move in the right direction. I do think it loses a little bit of its charm, like Lance said. And I think all of the issues that I end up having with this video, and the others as well, I think it comes down to preparation and structure. I really think it comes down to knowing what you're going to say, knowing who's going to say what point and what the discussion's going to be. You don't have to script it out necessarily, but at least having an idea of where it's going to go structurally so you hit the things that you want to talk about. Rambling is a good word. I've heard it used a couple times. I think that's what it suffers from the most, is just trying to find that thing you're going to say instead of knowing that thing you're going to say ahead of time. The whole thing about saying some people liked the movie and some people didn't, I don't know why that's important to me. You didn't tell me why that's important to me. Even the horror stuff, is it a horror movie or isn't it a horror movie? Like, I know why I think that's important, but like you said, Alex, it's not unpacked. There's not a seed at the root of that argument to grab onto and go, what's that mean about this movie? And so I think by the end of it, I get a sense for maybe why Kaiti liked the remake. I don't know as much that I get a sense of how Travis really felt about the movie, other than he wished they had reviewed Fright Night. That's kind of the end joke or whatever. So just more of a sense of saying exactly what you mean, and I think that would improve what they're doing when they review. Again, I think they're just entertaining people, and I don't know that their channel would have to be a review channel. It could just be a life experience channel. I think they do great at that kind of stuff. But I do appreciate the effort in, trying to find some things in the movie and pull them out this time.
The big word that that's just bouncing around in my head right now is elaborate. You'll sort of make a point, and I don't know what it means. It's kind of, you get things like, people like the horror aesthetic. What about it? What does that mean? What are we talking about exactly? It improved on the horror elements. That especially, in what way? Is it that you just said it's not really scary, so did it improve on it in that it made it feel like more of a horror movie, or what is it about that? And I didn't really know what we were talking about some of the time. There was kind of fishing to fill time, but then also I'm sure as they've had this problem in the past of almost, it's almost like fishing for content, but then at the same time trying to figure out how to squeeze it into 4 minutes all at the same time. That is maddening. What I would suggest to them with a thing like this, because what I really latched onto was, they don't agree a lot. They should be debating. That's what this should be, and they kind of do that a little bit, but they kind of play it for the comedy side. So sometimes I can't tell how much of that is just them sort of playing up. We don't. Not that they don't get along, but we don't have the same perspectives on things. We like different things. Sometimes the joke of I don't even like what we had to review this time is funny, and I can kind of enjoy that. But what I would suggest to them in making it more structured, in having a plan going and have a battle plan, is a little bit different from what Aaron's talking about, because I feel like it has the potential, if you lose too much of the off the cuff improvisation, that it has the potential to seem too rehearsed, too static. What I would do with it, because I think a lot of that is spontaneous. I don't think they can come up with that on the fly. I think most of that is stuff that comes to them as they go along. I think the way that you keep that, at least in a shorter review, I mean, once once the world's open to you, you can talk for 30 minutes and have a good review, and as long as you're not rambling and people like you, they'll watch you. We do a lot of that on the channel here, but what I would suggest would be do something closer to the Geeks Not Nerds format that Vince and I started with back in 09, and do a debate style where you each have a set of points that you've each listed out separately but not told the other person, and then sit down, and each of you gets the floor for a certain amount of time, and then you kind of hash it out after that. So that way it seems more planned out, and some of that jokey stuff can come out. So that way and it's especially fun if you already know going in that one of you likes the movie and one of you doesn't, but you don't know what your points are going to be, so that you can plan it squarely like a debate. I'm going to be on the side of this is great. This other person's going to be on the side of this is not great. We'll make fun of each other for the other person's opinion, and then it feels structured, but it also doesn't lose the spontaneity. That's the format I would suggest for them in a review like this.
That's exactly what I was saying, Kev. I'm sorry if I didn't elaborate. What I was saying is bunny trails are great. They're fun. but you can't have a bunny trail if you don't have a main trail. You know, they've got to come off of something, and there's got to be some sort of, you know, foundation and center point to what you're doing in order for that fun randomness to really happen. Otherwise, it just feels like a conglomeration of randomness, and that's what can make it, I think, feel rambly and kind of struggling to find what you want to say.
I mean, what's weird about having an entity like this, and I've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's kind of fun to discuss, where you have, on our show, where you have two reviewers at the same time, is it a collective review where they together are telling you a thing, or are they giving you two sides of an argument? Because they, for the sake of the contest, are an entity. It's Travis and Kaiti. It's not Travis and it's not Kaiti. But then at the same time, inside their review, they're two individuals. So that, I don't know, I just think that they should make that distinction a little bit clearer. Because when you get to the end of this video, Travis is kind of saying that he doesn't like the movie and kind of not. I mean, he has more positives than negatives. So when you get to the end of it, I don't know that it's not just he's not enthusiastic, you know? And then it's kind of like, why are you there? Oh, because that's the kind of comedy you do, is the sort of unenthusiastic guy. You see what I mean? Like, it gets a little bit confusing. In doing a review. And I was really interested to see how they would handle narrative. And I do think that it's, as you guys said, I do think it's really good that they that they took it a little bit more seriously in attempting to actually deal with some story stuff and things like that. But they at least individually needed to have a game plan.
Hey guys, so Katie here. Travis is not able to film the questionnaire right now, so I will be filming and answering the questions with his answers as well. So let's get on that. So the first question, why did we pick our subject? Well, the challenge was to pick something to be remade, and we were kind of having, not really arguments, but we were kind of like trying to figure out what we really wanted to do. We couldn't really come up with something, but I'm a big fan of the Evil Dead series, and they had made a remake, so Travis had never seen it, so I decided I was going to make him watch it and kind of like get his idea on it versus how I had already seen it versus how he had never seen it. So that was kind of the reason why we picked it. I think the hardest part was that it was really hard to joke about it. There wasn't a lot of jokes this time because we couldn't come up with any funny jokes, because it is kind of a very dark movie in a way, and so it's kind of hard to come up with jokes about it. And also, I don't think Travis really liked it. I don't think he was a big fan of the movie, so it was kind of hard for him to like make jokes about it when he didn't really like it all that much. So I think that was kind of hard because it wasn't our usual video, like where we're always making fun of things or having funny anecdotes and stuff like that. I think, what would we do differently? I feel I don't know if we could have done it differently. Maybe if we had done something different. I think that's really the only thing we could have done differently, is if we had done a different subject. But with what we had picked, I think that's kind of what came out of it, and that was kind of our honest review about it. So I think that was, I don't know if that was a good road to choose, to be doing more of an honest review and like kind of talking about it this time. But that's what came out, so that's what we did. And last question, do we think we're gonna give Tom banana this time? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know. I think the reason why we got it the first time is because I had all my family and friends vote for us, but I think this time I don't know. Probably not. Okay guys, so that's our answers for round 3.
Alright, we'll move on to Connor doing another Batman review.
Remakes are commonplace in Hollywood, but are also popular in television and video games. But in the realm of comics, alternate universes and updates seem to fill the void that remakes usually fill in other media. But that's not to say that there aren't comic book remakes of other comics, they're just extremely rare. But on the off chance you do find one, they all seem to be Batman. One of these remakes is of The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, the debut Batman story by Bill Finger, with art by Bob Kane. When Commissioner Gordon is visiting with his friend Bruce Wayne, a crime calls Gordon to investigate the murder of a business tycoon who had a safe robbed and his son's prints on the knife. From there, the story shifts to a mysterious Batman who finds the killers, but realizes there's more to the case. It's a nice little debut that features atmosphere, mystery, action, red herrings, and a twist ending that makes the whole story feel more cohesive. For a 76-year-old comic, it hasn't aged as well as a lot of the early Superman adventures, but it's still an enjoyable 6-page time capsule. The remake, written by Eisner winner Brad Meltzer with art by superstar Brian Hitch, carries mostly the same plot, but has quite a bit of tweaks and changes. Some of these changes are by setting the story in a modern context, but also in its narrative approach. Meltzer's version is entirely from Bruce's point of view, and it has an inner monologue as well as an ongoing journal entry. So how do I feel about the new version of The Case of the Chemical Syndicate? It's okay. This is something I want to like more than I do. It's got great ideas behind it, but a lot of these ideas step on one another, and the end product is admirable, but problematic. Meltzer approached this project with an interesting high concept, to tell the story with the same amount of panels as the original. See, the original is only 6 pages, but it is a whole 55 panels. I think this approach was not only to show how Batman and storytelling within comics have changed, but also to show how the medium has remained the same in its core idea of words married with juxtaposed pictorial and other images in deliberate sequence. Today's comics layouts and comic storytelling have evolved to page-size panels, 2-page panels, panels inside of panels, and many such like liberties of panels that placing the original story in this new artistic environment is a brilliant idea. But not only is the art set in a modern context, so too is the writing. As mentioned before, there is an inner monologue employed as well as a reoccurring journal entry. Both elements seem to have replaced the omniscient narrator of the Golden Age, not only in this story, but across the medium in general. Lastly, Batman's world is out of the modern context. The original didn't have a Batcave, an Alfred, or even an origin. All these elements built up over time. So on paper, all these ideas sound great, honoring the original story, combining it with Batman's collective history, and bringing it all into a modern context. So what went wrong? Words slow the pacing in comics, and the journal entry that tells us why Batman is doing what he's doing is not only repetitive, and we get the point very early on, but when the action kicks in, it chokes the art and ruins the pace. It's also odd to have a real-time inner monologue coexisting with a non-related journal entry, and it's even more awkward when in the same panel we have journal entry, dialogue, and inner monologue. It's just trying to do too much. What's also unfortunate is the 55 panel idea isn't the final product. Brian Hitch's end result is 63 panels, so that great high concept pretty much means nothing. Outside of this shortcoming, I have nothing but high praise for Hitch. Overall, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate is an average, somewhat forgettable story that could have made a remarkable remake, at least from a creative standpoint, if the ideas had been refined and stuck to. Thank you for watching, and until next time, this is Connor Nielsen, signing out.
So real quick, I want to suggest that Connor might be the only comic reviewer in history that has taken a book and counted the panels. I'd like to begin this time with Alex, because I want to start with Alex every time we do Connor now, so he can tell us things that he didn't know about this story. But anyway.
I will say the original's better. Much better.
Hey, you agree!
I'll start by saying I liked that he brought up by Bill Finger with art by Bob Kane.
Yeah.
And by art by Bob Kane, I think we really mean tracing by Bob Kane, because he really didn't draw, he traced stuff, but anyway.
Ooh, got some wonder for that bird.
I thought this was really great. He demonstrated a lot of knowledge of comics as a medium, and that came through in a lot of different ways, and I really appreciated that. I just kind of liked his whole approach with this of saying, like, does this live up to the high concept? And no, it doesn't. So yeah, overall, I thought this was really, really good.
Mr. Dicer.
I think it's a great review. Connor's so good, and I think it's, you know, it's impressive when Connor can do a comic book, and, you know, like Alex, who's into comics big time, can love it. But I think it's also as impressive when somebody like me, who really doesn't do comics that much, can look at a review like this and understand completely, you know, what I would think of this comic, you know, if I would enjoy it, how it compares to the first. he just explains things really, really well and detailed enough that even as somebody who's not like immersed in that world, well, I totally get it. And I think that's a gift of his that he does really well. He's well spoken. He gets details. Just overall, another really solid job from him. The only probably nitpicky thing, I think there are maybe a bit too many jump cuts for my taste in this that I wish he could have covered with some some art on screen or something. I mean, he's got plenty to use. He's got his own inserts that he shot, which are beautiful. And I know structurally they come at a certain point, but it just seems like, for as little as the time he was on screen. I mean, we've seen this guy do a full review in one take.
Yeah.
He could certainly do those sections without as many jump cuts. It seemed like there were more than I'm used to seeing with him because he's got so much coverage to use otherwise. But that's really minor because overall the experience is really good.
And I noticed a lot more of them on this viewing than the last time I watched it. I didn't realize just how many of them there were. There's a couple that are really well masked where that you almost can't see, and then I'm like, oh wait, there's a little cut there. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they're distracting. I really don't. I think they're just noticeable to me because they don't necessarily have to be there. He's really good at using stuff to cover. So I just, it's one of those things like just a little tweak.
Well, there's so much work in this. The reason we're noticing it, I think, Aaron, is because the quality overall is so good.
Exactly.
That the production values are so good. I mean, this is a guy, he's meticulous, right? This is a guy that can't just do an opening monologue about remakes. No, he's got to give you examples of stuff as he's going along. I like that for every scene that he puts together in a review, he thinks, what could I do to spice it up without getting too distracting or overwhelming or anything. I really like that. There's always a little nice touch. He's not content to just sit there and talk. He's gotta do stuff. Lance.
Once again, just like with Spy Hunter, it's one of those things. It's like, oh, another Batman thing. He does Batman. It's not out of his comfort zone, but at the same time, like he says, there aren't that many comic books that do flat-out remakes, so he really is choosing something unique among the pack.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. Yeah, because obviously it gave him a totally different set of criteria to talk about than anybody else this time. The one thing, since everybody's covered pretty much all the wonderful things about this, the one thing that drove me crazy, and in its own way, it's almost kind of a compliment because he got me so invested in this review that I wanted to see more, was it really got me interested in how the panel count was dispersed in the remake, and yet he didn't really show any. He showed examples of how individual panels were remade, but I wanted to see him zoom out a bit more, get farther away, so I could see how panels were distributed on pages or groups of pages, because I didn't really get an idea of how exactly this book was remade or redistributed in terms of panels.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Manos.
I've always said this, but there just aren't enough videos in our series that feature strangling children. I particularly liked the little tiny, subtle, quick joke he used a couple of times to demonstrate what he was talking about with actual actors. I assume those are his brothers or something, with signs demonstrating, how exactly. Visually, it's a nice visual way of explaining what he's talking about. He's going to the Batman well a few times, but it's a well I enjoy drinking out of.
Batman well.
Yeah.
I'm Batman well.
Hey, that's not what I was thinking, but okay.
Batman well.
But
Batman well is a terrible thing to waste.
What the hell was I talking about?
Strangling children.
Yes, anyway.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the important thing, the strangling of the children.
I think he does. I think he does a wonderful way of using the original to compare, to mostly talk about the version he is reviewing. I think he does a really good job with that. It's amazing to think that that's 6 pages. The remake is like 40 or 50 pages or something like that. And also, I don't think he mentioned this in the review, but it goes to show the vast difference generation-wise how comic storytelling is done. A story that we could have told well in 6 pages now has to be like flat out like stretched off as far as you can. Also, what's interesting, if I have a nitpick, it would have been nice for him to mention the fact that this story has actually been remade before.
Oh.
In the 90s, Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle did a remake of this story. And I believe it was remade actually once more. I have a special of an anniversary special of this story where when Batman tends to hit a big anniversary, they tend to remake the story. So it's interesting. It's kind of a rare.
I thought that
story.
was the first. I thought that was the first Joker story.
No, that was Batman #1. This is Detective 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Detective 27 is this story.
No, I know that. I just thought that. But has this been remade that many times? Because that story's been remade like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it's been remade.
Oh wow. Okay.
Uno, dos, tres. It's been. I think this is the 3rd remake of it. Which is kind of interesting because he was right. You know, outside of Origins, we really don't see that many remakes of comics.
Yeah, I think of all of our contestants, he is the most sophisticated with regard to structure. Everything counts. He has such a good sense of how to pace this and get into the 4 minutes without it feeling rushed. I think it's neat that I think he has maybe in some ways the most unique style of comedy, because he doesn't rely on a lot of puns and jokes and things inside his writing. His writing is lively and it's interesting and it's not too formal, but he's a write first and joke later kind of writer, and I really like that. I can relate to that. I'm kind of that way myself sometimes, and I like that he finds ways in post to kind of, and maybe he scripts some of it too as he's going along, but that, like, you know, he gets the script together, the bare bones. This is what I want to make sure I talk about. And then he finds cool ways to liven it up, and that makes him stand out really hard from the pack. I also like how, as he's talking about a thing that isn't structured the way that he even said that it was going to be and isn't handled that well, his structure is flawless. I really like that. He has a tendency to do these kind of reviews where the way he makes it reflects the thing that he's talking about in some way, be it showing it up or doing it in a similar kind of way, and I really dig that a lot. Seems like there was 1 or 2 other things I wanted to mention. Another technical note is that the way he does the pans of the panels is good. I'm with Lance. He needs to show us those layouts, but of the other comic. But the graininess took me out because it's so otherwise pretty quality. And I'm glad that he's got a good camera now and that his audio is better. But and this might just be a technical limitation, but he really needs to. Because I'm assuming that what he's doing is that he's filming panels and then panning them as opposed to taking still pictures. That's the only way you would get that kind of graininess, I think.
Are you talking about, because I did see graininess, but it seemed like he was using graininess on the older comic.
Yeah, but I don't think it was on purpose.
Oh, you don't think it was on purpose?
There's definitely an old-timey type of old film filter.
Yeah, it's a filter.
Is it a filter?
Yeah, I totally thought it was on purpose.
Okay,
he was explaining visually how this one was older versus the super cool new one.
I resist that. Yeah, I don't think that works. Because I couldn't.
I didn't agree with it either.
Because first of all, I couldn't tell.
I think that's what he was trying to translate.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done that just because when I'm looking at comic panels, I want to be able to actually, see it the way you're looking at it, because I could see doing it once or twice to make a point, but not the whole way through. It looks like a mistake to me. So
when I read old comics, I don't have old-timey vision.
Now I know what that. And I know what that effect looks like. I mean, I know what effect that is, especially if he's using Vegas. I know exactly what effect he's using, but it didn't occur to me that it was one. It looked like a mistake to me. But that would explain why. Oh, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I do know that effect, and that tells me where that line came from. Okay, I was wondering why that. I'm like, what? Oh, I know exactly what that is. That's it in one of those TV filter things. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. That's just me. Anyway, okay, well then, besides that, this was definitely one of the strongest outings this time.
I reviewed the case of the Chemical Syndicate for a couple reasons. First off, I wanted to challenge myself. I knew movie remakes were the most prominent form of remakes, but I didn't want to go into a venture into something that I basically know nothing about, which like video games. So I chose comic books. I also chose to do it because there aren't a whole lot of comic book remakes. I also chose it because when looking for a comic book remake, I couldn't get my hands on a whole lot. The Chemical Syndicate was like a very recent remake. I had Detective Comics from the New 52 issue 27. I had a free issue that included both the original and the remake, so that was cool. And I just had better access to it. And it's short, another reason. I had actually 2 weeks less than everybody else to do this this challenge because I just didn't receive the deliberations until 2 weeks after they'd already been sent out. So there's that going for it. I also want to address a couple other things. First and foremost, I am still using my camera, my phone's camera as my camera. Special thanks to Kelly Sue DeConnick. She just got nominated for her second Eisner in a row for Best Writer. So thank you very much for appearing in my video. You can't really tell it's her, but thank you anyways. She's the one who held the sign, which if you've read Understanding Comics, you understand that. And she's a teacher of mine, so thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to be in my video. Also, Mr. Cool had pointed out there seems to be a Batman conspiracy going on in all of my videos. I guess it must be subconscious or something, because actually Superman's my favorite superhero. I guess I just have a tendency to gravitate towards Batman. ThatMattKid asked if that was a jab at Bob Kane, and yes, it is. Screw that guy. Question 2. What was the hardest part of this review? I don't know if anyone else had this issue, but this was really hard to write for me. Who knew writing a remake, who knew writing a review of a remake would be so difficult? Before anything, I have to address a thesis on what a comic book remake is. It can't be Ultimate Spider-Man. That's an alternate universe. I have to address that there aren't a whole lot of comic book remakes. I have to give a synopsis on the story. I have to then explore the changes and updates from the original to the remake. Then I need to give my thoughts on why I like the remake, and what I like about the remake and why, and then what I don't like about the remake and why. And I have to do all this in 4 minutes. That's far and away the hardest part about it. I had to cut quite a bit out of this. About 6 important sentences didn't make it into the final, product. There was just so much to talk about. How do I feel about my performance as opposed to last round? I think the content is better. The execution is not as impressive, and I think it's less ambitious, undoubtedly. But I think the content is more there. I do go and I analyze. I was told to be more analytical on something and go into more thematic stuff. But with this story, what you see is kind of what you got, and for its time, that's totally fine. It was a golden age story. That's kind of what they were. But nowadays, you have to have more levels, and I think that the levels aren't really there narratively, but they're there on a conceptual level. So I have to analyze the ideas on a creative level, and so I think I did a good job of describing my feelings about the remake through the creative process that Meltzer and Hitch did to get to where they are finally. But I think content-wise it's better. It's kind of more my usual format. So if I had more time, what would I do differently? I think I would have more humor injected into it because it felt it wasn't a very entertaining video. I feel I'm doing a good job of being engaging and being engaged in what I'm saying, but the need is to be more levity, and I think that when I approach my next review, if I make it to the next round, that I should kind of space it out more and less be worried about what I put in there and more about how it fluctuates as a review. And I'd also have crisper delivery. When I recorded, it was late at night and I was really tired and I'd been working all day and I talk a lot at work, so my words were starting to slur together and it was sort of my mouth was all sticky. So I wish I could have, recorded at a better time, crisper enunciation. Do I think I'm going to get top banana? No. I mean, I could be surprised. That's entirely possible. But if my Birdman review didn't get me top banana, I doubt this will. And I think it just kind of stems from me not being the best critic in this competition, which, cool, whatever. I'm fine with that. I'm just happy to be here. So, it is what it is. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching, and very special thanks to Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Final review for this week, we're going to talk about Kai's review of Tainted Love. Another unique one in that he picked a genre that nobody else, a medium that nobody else jumped into, which is neat.
Yeah.
Again, not that he would know, but that's cool. It's neat that I said that song covers count, and exactly one guy did it, and that's kind of fun.
I like the fact that he chose a long dead art form known as music.
One song that has been covered more times than I can count in the history of the music industry is Tainted Love. There are versions of it spanning from 60s folk artists to Marilyn Manson to the Pussycat Dolls. The one version that sticks out to most as the most iconic and generally well-known is the 1981 cover by Soft Cell. The band was mainly known for that one song, along with the B-side on the single Where Did Our Love Go? It had an unforgettable synth-based sound and depressing lyrics that made Tainted Love bigger than it ever had been before, and it wasn't so much a cover as it was really a remake. They truly made the song their own. The original was released in 1964, written by Ed Cobb and performed by the young R&B gospel artist Gloria Jones, attached to the single My Bad Boy's Comin' Home, which was unfortunately a commercial flop, and after a few years passed, it really faded into obscurity. That is, until being rediscovered by synth and vocal English band Soft Cell almost 2 decades later. I've never really been much into synth pop, but I can't deny how great it sounds. I previously discussed the technical details about it, now let's talk about Tainted Love on more of a personal level. This is one of the few relationship-centered songs from the 1980s that really resonates with me and I can get an emotional response out of. A lot of songs of that kind from the time period, like Separate Ways by Journey and a-ha's Take On Me, come off as these really cute little outdated-sounding love songs. And you could argue that those weren't meant to be taken very seriously, and I don't think that Tainted Love was either, but for the 2 minutes and 48 seconds that it lasts, it pulls all the weight on mood and emotional messages as opposed to actual music. But that doesn't by any means make this a badly composed song. What can I say? The chord progression is excellent, and it makes for this terrific little synth rhythm that sticks with you long after you've listened to it once. The first time I listened to it, I was only 8 years old. It was on a mix CD that I found laying around that my parents had. And the line that really stuck with me forever, as long as I would be alive, was, "Once I ran to you, now I run from you. This tainted love you've given, I've given you all a boy could give you. Take my tears, and that's not nearly all." Which is the line that is sometimes altered in covers depending on the point of view of who's singing it. It doesn't even feel so much like a breakup song as it is a song about hard emotional feelings that ends on an ambiguous note. As I mentioned, this version of Tainted Love is more of a remake than a cover, and not only is that the case, but it's one of those few entities, if you will, that improves upon the source material. The chord progression in the original is very uncomplicated and forgettable. The riff could probably be stuck into any other R&B song at the time and come out the same. Also, Tainted Love has these tough lyrics that the musicians really didn't seem to take seriously. If you've listened to that version on its own, it's fairly enjoyable, but if you've heard the Soft Cell version prior, it really feels weak in comparison. It's bluesy, it's too upbeat, it has this R&B vibe in there. I can't help but be surprised it's not something off the soundtrack of a Quentin Tarantino movie. The only gripe that I have about it, and this is a minor one, I think the song is a little too short, running at under 3 minutes. They could have added a synth solo in there or something, but I always find myself being a little disappointed when it ends. It's like, What? Come on, this awesomeness cannot be restricted to such a small time limit, man. Throughout the years after, we got many covers, mostly basing themselves off the soft cell version. Some are okay, some are... There was also a cover by Marilyn Manson. In 2001, we got this. Yeah... You know what, the less said about that one, the better. Tainted Love is a classic, and an excellent piece of music in its own right, and being a musician myself, I think at a young age it inspired me somehow. You know that song I'm always using in my videos? Well, that's a copyright-free version of Where's My Mind by the Pixies, which I even performed at one point a few years ago. Stuff like that is what Soft Cell might be indirectly responsible for. They were one of the first of their kind, and if it weren't for Tainted Love, we may have not gone on later in the decade to have gotten other legendary synth albums from various artists. I'm giving Soft Cell's cover of Tainted Love a 3.5 out of 4. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is Kai, and as always, I'll see you all next time.
I'm beginning to wonder if Kai was a buddy of mine in the 80s and died and has, like, come back to life. Man, he is always speaking my language.
You should ask him.
He does these reviews. Okay, hey, did I know you in another life? Are you dead, like, best friend? The only problem is I don't have any best friends that are dead. I really enjoyed this review because he frankly reviewed the hell out of this song. He did, man. Oh man,
that's great.
This is a great song, and actually, it's a great choice for the remake challenge because, yeah, like he says, it is not so much a cover; it is a complete remake, and it did affect how people think of the song completely afterwards. Like everybody covers their version of the song, and I love how he really kind of digs into the lyrics, the meanings of the song, how it could maybe it had been improved upon in a way that does sound kind of natural for the song. Yeah, I mean, I love the fact he gets into the history of the song. Something I find it is interesting. I didn't really pick up on this until maybe the second or third time I watched this. Is he barely uses the song in the review? He reviews it so thoroughly, you feel like you're listening to the song. I think he just really attacks it in a great method. And it's funny. I listened to that song 8 billion times, and that was definitely a song I listened to in my youth and like junior high. And I've never seen the pictures of Soft Cell. I never knew what they looked like. I had no idea that they were Phalis and Paul from the Wonder Years. I mean, I did not know that was them.
It all goes back to the Wonder Years.
Yes.
Of course it does.
Yeah, I was impressed. I wrote in my notes that I felt like this feels like a short VH1 documentary if it had critical analysis in it.
The only thing he was missing was that slow downward fall of Soft Cell.
yeah, he doesn't talk about the drugs, but you do see the drugs. So, but anyway, I thought this was fantastic. He shows so much authority on the subject with this, right? You hear people say, "Oh, you can't review music because it's too ethereal, it's too subjective." Boy, he doesn't make it that at all. How often have you seen a music review where somebody actually shows you the sheet music and talks about chord progression? Yeah, man, he just gets into the nitty-gritty of it. If music is, if in narrative what we should be focusing on is story, in music what we should be focusing on is the story of the music, which is what the notes are doing. Yeah, man, I was really impressed. This is definitely the best thing he's shown for us. I want to see him do more music stuff. Because I feel like this isn't just he knows this song really well. I feel like he knows music pretty well, and it seems like a place. And I'm not saying that he's bad at reviewing movies at all. I just think that this is a thing he should consider doing more of. Because I felt like he was a lot more confident. I was also impressed with how he made me think of something kind of differently than I had before. When he discusses, and I thought really he had a really sophisticated read on this, in justifying his choice that this is not a cover, as Manos was talking about, so much as a remake. That it really is. Let's completely reinvent the thing. It made me think, well, maybe we should look at certain movie remakes more like covers. Like the Psycho remake is not a remake; it's a cover. Like you got me thinking about the terminology and the way we think about that stuff, and I thought that was really super cool. It's not a perfect review. There's a couple of things where I feel like he maybe talks too long about a thing that's not really all that relevant. When he talks about the line in the song that he really likes, I wasn't sure what the point was of mentioning that when a girl sings it, you change a word. I don't know what the point is of mentioning that. It's minor, it's not a big deal, but I just don't think he really needs that. He still has that thing of having a 15-20 second joke that's kind of irrelevant. We got it again. It's better than it has been. But even still, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to be like, there's some other remakes, and here's kind of how they factor in, and I'm impressed that in 4 minutes you can even go there at all. But you're basically just saying, oh, that song, the Marilyn Manson version, we shouldn't even think about it because the video is weird, but you didn't play any of it. And here's the thing. He and I talked a little bit before he made this, and I told him not to put music in the video because of the copyright thing, because I've had that policy this year so that we can actually show the videos on Geekvolution, and he put a little bit of some of the music in the video, and he's not getting copyright strike for it. Hopefully we don't. So I guess it's okay. I asked him not to do that for the sake of the review itself. It's effective. I'm with Manos. He didn't have to play too much of it, but if you're going to play the other two versions, why didn't you play any of the Marilyn Manson version when you did that joke? That's all I'm saying. But I can't criticize that too hard because I asked him not to do any of that. So anyway, I want to hear now from Aaron Dicer.
I don't think I liked it quite as much as you guys did. It is a good review, and I do love the music aspect of it. He's obviously very knowledgeable about that stuff. A couple of the issues that I had, because you hit all the things I loved about it, so I don't need to necessarily refocus on those. One is a philosophical one. It strikes me as a little strange to do this as a review of a cover when, like you guys have already said as well, it feels like the original. Now, granted, technically it is a cover, but I think when you think of Tainted Love, you think of the soft sell version. I almost would have liked to seen the review of the Pussycat Dolls version or the Marilyn Manson version. You know, those feel more like covers to me than the soft sell version does, which feels like a wholly original piece, even though it obviously came from somewhere. That's philosophical. I don't know that there's a lot, there. The other thing is, I would say be careful of hyperbole here and there. He says something about it being remade more times than he can count. It was remade, what, 4 times that he said?
I think he counted them, kind of. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's one of those things, sometimes you throw that stuff in because what you mean to say is, man, it's been remade a lot. But just be careful with, I think hyperbole sometimes can undercut what you're trying to say. Because in an instance like that, if it really has been remade more times than you can count, you should show like the 20 times on the screen. You know what I mean? Like, give some evidence that really is the case. But as it was, you just mentioned basically 2 other versions other than the original and the one you're talking about.
Like, you know what's a song that's been remade more times than anybody can count? Louie Louie. I once found a tape at a flea market that was nothing but like 12 different versions of that song by different bands, and it was volume 3.
Amazing. Other than that, technical issue, the audio still is different in places, and there's some audio jumps that are a little interesting. When you're cutting audio behind, like narration audio behind something, leave in some of the breathing space, unless you're really getting close to your time, because when you cut words too close to each other, it sounds unnatural, and I think there is a bit of that in this video. So, leave a little bit of breath space, especially between sentences, so it'll sound a little more natural. But really, I said the negatives because I hadn't heard them. All the positives you said are there. I really do think this was a really in-depth music review and really enjoyed it for that. And And so I want to make sure I reemphasize that, even though I'm not kind of going over that stuff again, because I do think it's a good review.
Lance.
Well, based on what you said, James, about telling him not to leave, telling him not to put the song in at all, I guess I kind of have to retract one of the things I put in my notes, which was there was I was hoping to hear just a little bit more of the original version. Like, he had it in there, but it was so soft and so only there for a couple of seconds that I really didn't get an impression of what it was. Although to his credit, he described it very well. And when I did go to actually listen to the song to find out what he was talking about, I found that I agreed exactly with what he was talking about with the tone of the song, the way the chord progression worked, and just how much better. I agree with his analysis of Soft Cell's version. There's not much more that you guys haven't said already. I don't know, the cutaway to the Marilyn Manson joke didn't work for me very well. And it's like, God, did he film that in an indoor pool or something? Where is he filming this compared to where he's filming the audio or capturing the audio for the rest of it? That it sounds so good in the rest of his video, but sounds like he's in a cave when he's doing that one cutaway joke. And I don't know if this ties back into you telling him not to use the music, that maybe he planned to use the Marilyn Manson and decided to cut it out.
It sure feels like it, doesn't it? It seems like he's listening to it in the scene. Yeah.
There's just empty space during that, and it's like, okay, joke's going on too long, and it seemed like it would have fit if the music had actually been there. But just like with Aaron, all the good things have been said, and I agree with all of them. He knows music. He really knows music. And I found this a really enjoyable and very greatly analytical review to watch. There's a few minor things that just sort of jumped out at me.
I'll say this real quick for folks that might consider at some point doing a music review and are trying to avoid the copyright thing. The copyright flag thing is just obnoxious. You really should be able to use the music and show what you're talking about. If you're in the contest, or you're ever going to be in the contest, and it's here in Geekvolution, I just can't risk it. But what I suggested to him, and he didn't do it, and I guess is one of those ends justifies the means things where, well, you didn't get flagged somehow, because it's like, just because you make it quieter and only for a couple seconds, you can't be sure it's not still going to get flagged. So anyway, what I suggested that he do with folks that might want to do music reviews is to simply somewhere in toward the beginning of your video, just mention that you have links in the description to the songs. Say, go listen to those before you watch the review or after, or maybe even find some clever way to line it up, sort of like a movie commentary, where like you're supposed to listen to the song as you're watching the video and play the two things together or something like that. But I mean, like, you have to come up with creative, kind of out of the box ways to get around that kind of stuff. Manos, we haven't heard from you yet, or did we start with you?
Yeah, we started with me.
Well, I guess we did hear from you.
He's a dead friend or
Alex?
whatever.
Yeah. I went that whole fake story.
Yeah, no, that's right. yeah. We sorry, we got reincarnation and everything, and I forgot all about it. Alex.
I don't really have anything to add. I pretty much agree with everything you guys have said. I liked how he did get personal with parts of this, and he kind of opened up, and I feel like we got to know him a little bit better, and I think Kai's a cool person who has a lot of really interesting interests. And yeah, just overall, I thought this was a great review, and I think it was one of his best so far, if not his best.
I think I was just able to guess that most of the contestants would be, picking these, infamous, crappy movie remakes, and I kind of wanted to go with something that differentiated my video a little, and I also really wanted to talk about music in some way, and it was a good opportunity to do it. When Captain Logan said that we could do anything, movies, music, video games, I was like, yeah, music. Hardest part was, talking about music technically. I think a lot of times, I didn't really talk about, music, technically, what actually technically works. I was, talking about, just, what I personally like about music. I wasn't really, going, that in depth. I wasn't, really talking about, the writing. I was just being like, oh yeah, I like this, I like the way it sounds, blah, blah, blah. What would I do differently if I had to do it over again? I finally got the microphone on my camera figured out, which is really good, and the audio in the little part where I cut away to on camera is really messed up, and it just doesn't sound right. because like the mic that like is installed in the camera that it comes with just, But I finally got that figured out. But I wish I could have gone back and refilmed that afterwards, but I couldn't. Whether I think I'll get Top Banana this time, I doubt it. Just simple as I don't know. I don't know. I just think there are better reviews out there. I mean, the one I did was okay. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and hope round 3 goes good for everyone. And yeah. Peace.
It's time now for the fun part, and then the part where everybody wants to cry. Let's go ahead and begin with let's begin with Top Banana tonight. I'm very on the fence about Top Banana tonight.
This is a pretty difficult one because they were all so good, but I just liked the risk he took in the concept. It made me laugh quite a bit, and I just find so much sort of hidden or implied in all the crazy things he does. I'm going with MrGoodPlot this week.
Alright, and now we'll hear from the real Manos.
I also had a tough time picking, but I think I will also go with MrGoodPlot.
Alright, and now we go to Aaron Dicer.
Yeah, lots of great videos. I would say I could choose 5 of the 8 that were, really, really good.
Yeah,
and
I would agree with that.
I'm going to go with ThatMattKid.
I'll go ahead and go now. MattKid is my choice. I was so on the fence this week. But ThatMattKid kind of surprised me last time in sort of, I felt like just kind of doing the same thing again, and I was kind of surprised by how underwhelmed I was. And then this time he went, "Oh, underwhelmed, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah," I was so on board. I was rooting for him the whole time, and he's got almost a new persona in that. I feel like there's some reinvention going on there. Some big risk taking not in the middle of the contest, but round 3. You're gonna do that kind of reinventing after you did 2 videos in a row that were kind of the same thing. After we praised the first one, saying that's a great style, don't change it. Then we saw it again, and I was like, I don't know, maybe you should mess around with that. This time he's like, oh, should I? Okay, well, I'm gonna drive my automobile. So I gotta pick MattKid, but I will say that my runner-up this time was Connor. He really got me, and originally I wrote my notes that I was gonna go for Connor, but the more I thought, the more I thought about it, I had to go for MattKid. But you guys were like this, you're like fighting. All right, so now we shall hear from who has not gone yet.
Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Go ahead.
Is it tied?
It's tied right now. Yeah. So you will be the tiebreaker, sir. Wait, unless you pick someone different.
Yeah.
In which case we'll have a double Top Banana, and it won't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
Split.
Sorry, what?
A banana split.
I'm going to reiterate what you guys said and say it was really tough to pick. I'm going to give it to GoodPlot.
Oh, man! God! I mean, I don't want to call that an underdog thing, because he got Top Banana first. I can't believe that he's gotten... No offense, GoodPlot. I know this is awful for me to say. I can't believe he's got Top Banana twice! I never, ever thought this guy would... I mean, he's just like...
I thought that.
I know you did, but you were wrong, I thought. And, man, I don't know.
I keep expecting to be tired of this every week, but
Me too!
It hasn't happened.
No, I get excited for him now! No, he's great. This guy's got legs. He could go all the way. I never thought I would say that. Okay, well, once again, Manos, in his weird eclectic sensibilities, manages to help us get someone in the contest that seemed completely counterintuitive. So this week, MrGoodPlot has Top Banana again. Wow, and I want to say that he is. Well, no, he'd have to be because we've only had 3 rounds. Hi, I'm an idiot. I'm Captain Logan, and I'm an idiot. Hi, Captain Logan. He's gotten it twice.
I'm also an idiot.
He's gotten it twice. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Okay, So he's the only one. And now it's time for the vote off. Today we are only voting off one person. We don't have to go through the terrifying nightmare that we did last time when we voted off 3. Aaron was hoping for the nightmare. He was like, I could bring down my kid Freddy and we could have a nightmare, but we did not do that. So let's start the vote off this week with Aaron Dicer.
Sadly, because we have to, Travis and Katie.
Alex.
I'm gonna agree with Aaron, Travis and Katie.
That is sadly my vote as well. As we said, I did think that there was definitely some improvement in trying to actually make it more about something and get to more of the heart of the thing, and not just be goofballs. But they just, unfortunately, it was such a tough week. They didn't measure up to the quality of some of these other guys. With 3, they clearly are already voted off. But let's hear from Lance and Manos.
Really? We have to? Really?
Yeah, we do. I'm sorry, we do. We do. We have to know.
What's out on us?
Just for the record.
I'll go first. Travis and Katie would have been my pick.
Manos is like, can I say someone else? Just that I'll be Comics Kid, because I don't want to be mean.
I have to be honest. I was going to have said Travis and Katie as well. That's why I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, Travis and Katie, sorry to say that you folks will not be moving on to the next round. But we really enjoyed having you on the program, and we hope that you will continue, or I for one certainly hope that you will continue doing a lot of videos. And as we've said before, keep experimenting with reviews, but the sitting on a couch just talking about a topic thing, you guys are hilarious, and I will definitely continue watching. I've looked at some of their other videos that they've been posting lately. They continue to do things, not just for the contest, and they're a lot of fun. It's kind of like just hanging out with a couple of really quirky geeks that have very, very different comedic sensibilities, really original comedic sensibilities. Aaron.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like I've been a little hard on the review aspect of what they do purposely, because that's what we're here for.
That's it. That's the name of the game. Yeah, it's got the word review is in the title twice. What are you gonna do?
That's right. But I just have to say, I'm a Travis and Katie fan outside of this contest. I will be subscribed to their channel. I love what you guys do, and I think you're hilarious. I think, especially if you continue to work on your dynamic as a duo, I think you will see success on YouTube, because I really do think there is something there. So I did want to say that, because I know we kind of dig into the review part of it, and I haven't liked that part of it or thought that it was up to par, but as far as the channel goes, I've really enjoyed what they do.
I will go ahead and reveal now what next round is. I don't always do this, but we actually, like I said, have been pressing forward and are already in the middle of working on round 4, and all of the contestants already have their videos in for that. So I want to plug those so you can go check those out if you want to see them ahead of time before the round 4 video goes up. This is a really interesting and unusual one. We've never done this before, and I actually haven't seen all the videos yet, so I'm really excited to see what everybody has done with this. But the criteria for round 4 is to upload a raw review. It's the raw upload challenge, and the idea is no editing whatsoever. We want to see how the contestants this time can rely entirely on their content and on their wittiness in the moment, and whether or not they can create an entertaining and informative and interesting review without being able to fall back on any kind of editing tricks. And editing, of course, is a really big part of this, but this time we wanted to see how the contestants would do if they were relying entirely on their personality and on their review chops. So look forward to that, and again, be sure and vote in the viewer top banana poll to help your favorite contestant not get voted off next time to have immunity. Thanks a lot for watching, sure appreciate it, and we will see you again for round 4, hopefully very shortly. I'm Captain Logan. Happy reviewing.